Order. Welcome to the Commerce Committee Special Session A 2022 meeting. We will take up HB 1A of special session, Please silence any of your devices that make noise. People on the committee and the audience. Kimberly, please call the roll.
Chair Rommel,
Here.
Vice Chair Manny,
Here.
Committee Whip Barrero,
Here.
Representatives Antone, excused. Arrington,
Here.
Barnaby,
Here.
Benjamin,
Present.
Daniels,
Here.
Duggan,
Here.
Lombardo, Joseph,
Here.
Lamarcus, excused. Leak,
Here.
Mello,
Here.
Overdorf,
Yes, ma'am.
Rudman, Soroy,
Here.
Steele,
Here.
Tant, excused. Tremont,
Here.
Yeager,
Here.
quorum is present.
Thank you. Let the record show that a quorum is present. Before we get started, I'd like to welcome my Vice Chair, Representative Maney. Looking forward to working with you. We haven't had the opportunity so much. And Majority Whip Barrero, and the ranking member has not been recognized yet, and we'll do that in special session. And we're going to get started right away with Chairman Leak presenting HB 1A. You are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a little bill today on property insurance. Folks, we're going to talk today about the tax, the hidden tax, the tax that we quietly impose on every property owner in the state of Florida. Property insurance has doubled in cost over the last 5 years. Now, this is in part because of prevalence of storms in Florida. It's in part because of the cost of reinsurance, which is essentially insurance for insurance. And it's in part because of assignment of benefits abuse, which is caused in part by fraud and the opportunity created by loose regulations and certain court decisions. We can't stop the weather, but we can address the cost of reinsurance. We can stop the fraud, we can tighten up the regulations, and we can address some court decisions. You've heard it many times before. The state of Florida has 7% of the nation's property insurance claims. That number doesn't seem to be in dispute. The state of Florida in 2019 had 76% of the nation's property insurance litigation. That number does seem to be in dispute. So what is the appropriate number? Does the state of Florida have 70% of the property insurance claims or litigation? When you include Texas and New York, North Dakota, does that number fall to 60% of the property insurance litigation in the country occurring in the state of Florida? How about 50%? Whatever the number it is, it's too large. And it's causing our carriers to leave the state, which is creating a capacity issue and driving up prices for all consumers. About a dozen carriers have been declared insolvent or left the state since 2020. 6 of them left this year alone. 30 more are on OIR's watch list, and approximately 17 have been downgraded from an A rating, which means that if you're trying to get a loan from Freddie Mac or Fannie Mae, they won't accept them. As the private market shrinks, the citizens market swells. 3 years ago, we had approximately 500,000 policies in Citizens. Today, that number is somewhere around 1 million policies. And a year from now, that number will be somewhere around 1.7 million policies. Now, not only is every property owner suffering the hidden tax of inflated property insurance costs, every taxpayer is bearing the risk of every one of those policies. Forgive me for reading. This bill is large and complex, but I'm going to tell you in summary what the bill does. The bill eliminates one-way attorney's fees in suits arising in residential or commercial property insurance. The bill eliminates a policyholder's ability to execute an AOB for all property insurance policies but maintains the existing carve-out for seller to buyer AOB related to an ongoing insurance claim. The bill requires a breach of contract before a policyholder can sue a property insurer for settlement-related bad faith. Acceptance of an offer of judgment or the payment of an appraisal award alone will not be sufficient to support a lawsuit. The bill makes attorney's fees available for the prevailing party in offers of judgment, proposals for settlement, and property insurance cases, and allows joint offers of judgment to be contingent on the acceptance of all joint offerees. The bill creates a program that provides optional hurricane reinsurance that property insurers can purchase at near market rates, called FORA. The FORA program is funded with $1 billion in general revenue for the 2023 year and is supplemented by the premium insurers pay for the coverage. The bill reduces the time limit for providing notice of loss to a property insurer from 2 years to 1 year for initial or reopened claims and from 3 years to 18 months for supplemental claims. The bill changes the prompt pay statute to encourage property insurers to settle claims in a timely manner and requires the Office of Insurance Regulation, OIR, to collect certain additional data. The bill codifies that companies for a premium discount may issue an optional endorsement with consent from the policyholder that requires participation in binding arbitration to settle a claim. The bill requires that a property insurer place the flood coverage not included statement on the policy declarations page rather than just within the policy documents. The bill enhances OIR's ability to do a market conduct examination of property insurers after a hurricane, including examinations of managing general agents. It allows OIR to discipline insurers for abuse of the appraisal process, adds information regarding the use of appraisal to the list of information that a property insurer must include in the quarterly reports to OIR. It allows OIR to review property insurers' forms, withdraw approval, and suspend an insurer's ability to invoke appraisal for up to 2 years. It requires OIR to add the names of the insurers who abuse the appraisal process to its property insurer stability unit biannual report and post the names to its website. At OIR's option, it allows additional time for agents to place policyholders during insolvencies. With regard to citizens, it allows for renewals and takeout offers, establishes that if a renewal or takeout offer from an authorized insurer is within 20% of a policyholder's citizen's premium, including surcharges and assessments being levied, a policyholder is ineligible to remain in Citizens. For new policies, it establishes that the risk is ineligible for Citizens coverage if the admitted market policy is within 20% of the policyholder's citizen's premium. It requires Citizens residential lines policyholders to obtain flood insurance as a condition of having coverage from Citizens by 2027. It provides a different glide path for the rates that Citizens charge non-primary residents so that those policies become actuarially sound more quickly. It authorizes Citizens to combine its 3 policyholder accounts into a single account upon eliminating all outstanding financing obligations to allow Citizens to use its entire surplus to pay claims. That is the bill.
Thank you, Representative Lee. Members, do we have any questions? Seeing Representative Benjamin, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's my understanding that, and thank you, Representative Leaks, for bringing this bill. All right, it's a tough area to legislate in. It's a tough problem to resolve. But I do have some concerns with this bill as it relates to the attorney's fees. And I'm going to say that because in my 20 years of practicing, every federal or state one-way attorneys it has been to level the playing field, to allow. We found that there's an issue that's so important to the people, and that the equity is so uneven that in order to even the playing field, we allow for one-way attorney's fees. Under this bill, we can use an offer. You're saying that can we use an offer of judgment in order to regain the option of attorney's fees?
Recognized.
Yes.
And your, Mr. Chair, follow up?
Continue, sir.
Thank you. And can attorney fees be awarded for a demand for judgment?
Recognized.
Yes.
You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As it relates to mandatory binding arbitration, from my understanding as an arbitrator, it's a process much like court. And there are fees that are associated with that process. And to be honest, there's typically an attorney involved on both sides. Are we saying that who's going to bear the cost of a mandatory arbitration?
You're recognized.
Thank you. And I don't want to get hung up on mandatory arbitration, but it's something that the parties negotiate contract. And if the consumer agrees to the mandatory binding arbitration provision, they will get a discount on their policy, and the terms of that contract will control. Typically, it's both parties share equally, but it moves the process along more quickly so that you can avoid additional higher fees.
Now, in our court processes and our rules, we allow for the offer of judgment and the demand for judgment. But in arbitration, I'm not aware of a similar process by which a policyholder could invoke a provision that would allow them in winning to obtain attorney's fees or make an offer of judgment that would then later allow them for attorney's fees. Have we thought about what have we offered to offset that in an arbitration scenario?
You can try to take a bite at that.
Yeah, I may struggle with this a little bit. So there is no proposal for settlement or demand for judgment within the arbitration provisions, right? Or within the arbitration, within the Florida statutes. If it is provided for in the insurance contract, if there's a fee shifting provided for in the insurance contract, that could come into play depending on the arbitration, but there is no independent lever to pull with regard to PFS or offers of judgments for arbitration.
Additional?
One more question, Mr. Chair. Now, in the breach of contract provision, in order to get to bad faith, that requires a court proceeding as well. Are there attorney's fees going to be allowed in that provision? Or is there a PFS process in that process as well for the insured to possibly get their attorney's fees paid?
You're recognized.
Thank you. Let me try and wow, we're going to hit them all the big ones up front, aren't we? PFS and demand for judgment work as they would normally do under the Florida statutes, whether it's a bad faith case or anything else. There is no specific PFS or demand for judgment related to the bad faith action.
So just
You're recognized.
one last one. I promise this is the last one.
Yep.
So in all these processes that require attorneys, are we saying to the insured, the policyholder, that you have to come up with money up front in order of any hopes to get money on the back end? Is that what we're saying?
You are recognized.
Thank you. I think what we're saying is we're going to join the 39 other states that don't recognize one-way attorney's fees, which in fact operates the way you suggested.
Representative Arrington, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Representative Leak. I have a couple questions if the chairman will indulge me, and it's on citizens' property insurance and that portion of the bill. Yep, we're getting right into it this morning. And I just want to verify that this is what I'm reading, that this is true, that with this language in the bill, we will remove a policyholder's ability to renew citizens' coverage or reject a offer if they're offered private insurance with a premium within 20% of the citizen's policy?
You're recognized.
Yes, that's right.
Mr. Chair, if I can ask a couple more, please.
Follow.
Thank you, sir. And then also, we're requiring with citizens now, all private insurers are going to have to obtain a separate flood insurance policy as well?
You're recognized.
As it's spelled out in the bill, yes, I think its personal lines are required to.
And Mr. Chairman, and if we're requiring them to do this with citizens, we don't require this with private insurers as well. So why do we require that they're going to have to show the burden of proving that the flooding was not the cause of damage in order to succeed on a claim for water damage? Don't they already bear that burden already?
You're recognized.
Thank you. That's existing law.
That they already have to do with the flood insurance with citizens?
No, I think we're combining two things here. The existing law would require them to prove whether it was wind or whether it was flood, right? That's under existing law. The changes here would be to require flood insurance for citizens policyholders.
But if they already have to show proof that it would, I just don't, why are we requiring them is probably the easiest way to do the flood insurance. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That's a fair question. What we've seen out there is a lot of the consumers don't understand the difference between wind and flood. And the claims when they come in a storm can be both wind and flood. What we also see is this litigation is being spurned by the consumer trying to determine whether it was wind or whether it was flood. And so what we are doing here is requiring the consumer to get flood. And so it will be covered one way or another, either through flood or through wind.
One last question, Mr.
Follow.
Chairman, if you'll allow me. Do you all have any information on how many policies will likely become ineligible for citizens coverage based on the changes in this legislation?
You can follow if you have that. I don't know.
Yeah, do you mean globally, the changes globally, or as it relates to flood insurance?
All the changes that we have in this bill, do we know how many folks will become ineligible, like flood insurance, that they're being required now? Do we know how many folks will be ineligible of having citizens insurance?
I haven't seen that number, but let me ask. That might be a good question for citizens.
Yeah, and I'm gonna take a shot at that too. I actually, the way the bill is written doesn't mean people won't be ineligible. They're just gonna have to follow the new guidelines of having flood insurance. Or if there's private insurance less than 20%, they're gonna be required to take that now. People are still gonna be eligible for citizen, but they're gonna have to follow the new rules or be taken out. Additional questions? Representative Cassell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Representative Leak, for all of the work that went into this product. I know this is an extremely complicated subject matter as a practitioner in this area for the last 13 years. So I do appreciate the product, but I would like to transition over to FORA. Is the goal of this policy that's being presented to us today to provide rate relief to consumers or to provide market stability so they don't go insolvent?
You're recognized.
Yeah, market stability.
Okay. So when it comes to,
Through
sorry.
the chair. Thank you. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I apologize. When it comes to market stability, I'm hearing some concerns from interested stakeholders with regards to the FORA options being provided, that it does not provide a reinstatement layer, nor does it cover non-named stormed events. Is that accurate?
You're recognized.
Yes.
And
Recognized.
those,
Through the chair.
I'm
Thank
sorry.
you. She can come through the chair. Thank you.
Thank you. With regards to the reinstatement layer of the FORA program that is not provided, is that something that the rating agency is still going to require carriers to have in order to fulfill their reinsurance capacity?
You're recognized.
Possibly, yes.
Follow.
Yes, please. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So that is something they are going to still have to possibly go to the private marketplace to purchase.
You're recognized.
Yes, so the program's not designed to replace the private market, but to supplement the private market.
Are you hearing concerns? Oh, I apologize, Mr. Chair.
I know
Mr.
some attorneys. Wow, there must be a lot of attorneys here.
It's day one. Mr. Chair, may I proceed?
You're fine.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Are you hearing any concerns with regards to the rate online that's being charged for FORA, that in actuality it's going to increase the price of reinsurance because we're really piecemealing what rating agencies are going to require these carriers to have.
You can try to guess what will happen.
Yeah, thank you. I haven't heard that specific concern, but I can tell you my phone's died like 6 times in 24 hours because I'm hearing lots of concerns from lots of folks.
Yes, please, Mr. Chair. And again, similar line of questioning with regards to the component of FORA that does not provide coverage for the non-named storm events. Carriers are, in order to fill that rating requirement, rating agency requirement, they're also going to have to go out to the private marketplace to purchase that as well. Are you hearing that?
You can follow and let us know what you're hearing.
Yes, I have heard that.
Have concerns been raised? I'm sorry. Mr. Chair,
You're recognized.
thank you. So without a reinstatement layer component with FORA and without coverage for that non-named weather event, our carriers are still going to have to go to the private marketplace to obtain and fulfill that capacity.
You're recognized.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Additional questions? Representative Daniels.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chair Leak, this is a busy bill. There's a lot going on. I have gotten email after email after email, and everyday constituents really don't understand how this bill, bottom line, affects them. Can you, in a brief summary, tell our constituents how this bill helps them? For example, would this cause a hardship on seniors or people with fixed incomes? Could you just make a statement on how this bill generally would affect everyday people who are homeowners and are struggling already with their homeowner insurance?
Representative Leak, you are recognized to explain.
Thank you. Well, hopefully this bill stabilizes the property insurance market for all consumers, whether you're elderly or not. Hopefully it stabilizes the market for you.
Follow? Representative Joseph, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Chair Leak, for allowing me to be one of those people calling you to discuss the bill. What, if anything, does the bill do to address fraud?
You are recognized.
It eliminates the AOB. It eliminates the one-way attorney's fees. It takes a lot of the levers that are out there that encourage or incentivize unreasonable demands and sticking around in litigation longer than you should. It takes some of those things away. It's a big question, so I'm trying to do the best I can with the answer.
Follow?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Most of the factors you just identified help protect the insurer from these kinds of issues. And I believe in response to the question, both to Representative Daniels and to Representative Cassell about how it would impact the regular person, and correct me if I'm wrong, this bill is focused on market stability as opposed to any kind of cost relief for the consumer. Is that accurate?
You're recognized. I think there's 2 questions in there.
Okay, yeah, let me do the best I can with it. The bill is definitely focused on market stability. Okay, the bill benefits all consumers by stabilizing the property insurance market and creating capacity through which consumers will be able to shop property insurance. I don't know that we will see a decrease in premiums in the short term, but you will see a stabilization of the market, I believe firmly. And I also think it will mitigate the increases in property insurance premiums in the near term.
And Representative Joseph, I didn't want to just hop in there too. There are a tremendous amount of consumer protections in there for those that are concerned that insurance companies may be part of the problem. You're going to speed up the time and offer giving R, which is additional, I think, $1.5 million for their investigators. They're going to look out carriers longer to settle, did get more claims, have more appraisal. So we're giving a tremendous amount of tools to OIR to actually do a better job on investigating the carrier side for those that are concerned. And you're recognized for additional questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you for that additional information. I agree that there are some interesting tools that are in the bill. My question, just along both of those lines, in terms of tools with the stated goal of market stability, there are a lot of tools in the toolbox that OIR has right now that has failed or maybe just neglected to exercise that will contribute to a more stable marketplace. For example, one of the provisions that some states have that we don't have currently is forum selection. So currently, if there's a claim that needs to be addressed, that claim, let's say there's a mandatory arbitration provision and the person lives in Florida, the insurance company is free to, let's say that the person has to arbitrate in Texas or New York, or in some cases as far as London, England. Does the bill address anything as it relates to forum selection?
You're recognized.
This bill does not address forum selection.
Okay, follow up, Mr. Chair.
You're recognized.
Thank you. In addition, Florida law requires, if I'm understanding it correctly, this is not my area of expertise, that in order for insurer to participate in our automobile insurance market, which is a hot commodity around the United States because our rates are so high and they get paid so well, is that they also have to offer a property insurance product. But it's my understanding that a lot of these companies show up and they do not offer both products. They only focus on the more lucrative product without any investigation or complaint procedure or something from OIR to ensure that that company is being held accountable, so that would give more competition in our property insurance market as opposed to just in the automobile insurance market.
You're recognized.
I don't think that that's an accurate statement of the law in Florida today. I don't think we require a auto insurer who's providing coverage in Florida to provide property insurance in Florida as well.
Okay, perfect. Follow up? Given that the stated goal of the bill is market stability, and if that is not, in fact, the current state of Florida law, then that would obviously contribute to market stability. Is that something that you would consider including in the bill, maybe not necessarily during this special session that we're not fully in control of, but maybe during the regular session as something that would provide stability and increase competition in our property insurance market?
You're recognized too.
Yep. I don't think this is going to be the final expression of what we do in property insurance. And obviously you're as free as any other member to file whatever you'd like to do to file. I would challenge you on whether that would create more market stability or not. And we've got to be careful when we're talking about things that look and sound like price fixes or those types of things. You're going to drive more carriers out. And if our problem, and I believe firmly our problem, is capacity, the more you do to make it more difficult to do business in the state of Florida, the fewer carriers are going to remain in Florida and the higher your premiums are going to go.
Follow up.
You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So along those lines, sticking with the whole theme of OIR and what powers they currently have and may not be exercising, one of the things that we see significantly driving up the costs and not helping towards market stability are these managed general agents. And specifically, just putting it in regular people talk, we have companies that have sister, parent, or other subsidiary companies, some kind of related company that they wholly own. And these managed general agents now have the opportunity to subcontract or give out a particular function, whether it's claims processing, claims investigating, administration, et cetera, to these companies. So what we've seen is an alarming pattern that even OIR has identified, where these companies will get to the point of making lots of profits in years where there are not a lot of losses, not a lot of hurricanes or whatever. And then when those claims start to come in, they send the profits to one of their companies, including exorbitant executive bonuses, but then leave the other company, the one that's in Florida, holding the bag and report some kind of a loss, thereby destabilizing that part of the market, leaving ultimately Floridians holding the bag as they play these games. Now, the OIR has recognized this, asked for permission. The legislature gave them permission to do stuff. Would you consider including a provision in the bill that basically mandates that OIR look under the hood of what's going on with these companies, not just after a hurricane, because I understand the current draft of the bill encourages them to do that in certain circumstances if there's a hurricane, but absent a hurricane, to proactively look and see what's going on, because that's wreaking havoc on the market stability of the property insurance market here in Florida.
You're recognized.
I'm going to try to, I'm not sure where the question was in there, but I'm going to find it. This bill provides additional authority for OIR to perform market conduct examinations, including MGAs.
You're recognized.
Let me be more precise with the question. Would you consider, knowing that we're not fully in control of the bill, making so that OIR has to look under the hood of these managed general agents, not just after a hurricane, but just in general, and provide a report to the legislature about what's going on so we can address that issue?
You're recognized.
Thank you. As I indicated before, I don't think this is going to be the final expression of what the legislature does on property insurance. I also don't anticipate that any amendment that comes forth will be a friendly amendment, because I know we need to get this thing through. But I do believe that MGAs and offshoring money is a problem, and something that the OIR should be looking at.
Final question.
Final question.
Thank you. The bill in its current form does not have an effective date. As insurance companies are trying to prepare what, or maybe it does, I'm not sure, but one question would be, would you consider a March 2023 effective date so that insurance companies can prepare what they need to do on the business side to prepare for the changes that are going to be required of them, number one, but also for consumers so that they can get their houses, their financial houses in order to prepare for the almost certain increases that they're going to face as a result of some of these changes?
You're recognized.
The bill does have an effective date. It's effective upon becoming law, and I think that's the appropriate effective date.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Additional question? Additional.
If there's nobody else, may I ask a couple more questions?
You may, Representative Benjamin. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Lee, we talked about the prompt pay provisions that we're trying to even the field. We said we're going to take away your attorney's fees, but we're going to make sure the insurance companies do what they're supposed to do, because we have allegations like lowballing folks, bad denials, and things like that that assist in the litigation process. So, but what is the penalty for a violation of a prompt pay provision?
You're recognized.
Yeah, potentially it's bad faith, a bad faith claim, and it would be evidence of bad faith, if not necessarily a presumption of bad faith. But it also would subject them to further examination by OIR.
Mr. Chair?
You're recognized.
And the chair eloquently told us about some of the provisions that are going to help in the claims process. If any of those provisions are violated, how does the consumer get to the benefit of those penalties? And what are those penalties, and how does the consumer get to the benefit of those penalties?
You're recognized.
Yeah, it's the same answer to that question.
Bad faith claims?
A bad faith, further investigation by OIR. Remember, OIR can come in and shut down a carrier like that by pulling a certificate of authority. So it's fairly significant.
One more, Mr. Chair.
You're recognized.
Is there any provision in this bill that mandates OIR to effectuate and act upon these additional provisions that we're giving them to safeguard consumers?
Recognized.
Yeah, the reason I'm struggling here is the question is, does it mandate OIR do something? OIR has the authority that it's already been given in statute. This increases the authority to conduct market conduct investigations or examinations. So it doesn't, this bill does not mandate anything, but it does provide additional authority for OIR.
Mr. Chair?
You're recognized.
So what we're saying is that OIR may, as opposed to OIR shall, so that we ensure that the consumer is protected, that OIR does what it should on behalf of the consumer.
Just trying to get some clarity, and I'm going to hop in whenever you're ready.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for covering for me there. So I was confirming, OIR is required to investigate when a complaint is made. So the consumer has the ability to go ahead and trigger that investigation by making a complaint. This bill doesn't address that. Doesn't address, who's required to do or the consumer complaint. That is already an existing law, but I'm telling you what I found out.
And Representative Benjamin, I'll hop in here too. That's why we're giving them additional dollars. And OIR does have an authority. They also have the authority if they see, we'll say, an over amount of bad behavior from a carrier to remove them from doing business in the state of Florida. So OIR does the hammer, and we're going to give them additional resources to have the bigger hammer.
Mr. Chair, I'm glad you made those clarifications, because one of the criticisms of OIR is their failure to act. So my question goes to, what triggers do we have? What are we going to do as a legislature to ensure that OIR acts on behalf of our consumers?
I'll continue. I think that when they do their market conduct exams, and now with the additional resources, we're going to have to, as we all have heard, we have to gather the data in the future to see how they're operating. And if they're not doing a good enough job, then we'll act again, and we may act again, in regular session if we determine that more help is needed in the regulatory side.
Mr. Chair, is there anything that we can do to penalize OIR for not acting?
I would think that's outside the scope right today, and I think overall, our employees here in the state of Florida do a good job, and but we're going to give them additional resources so we can do a better job.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair.
All right, seeing no more questions, Representative Cassell, you have 2 more questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Lee, turning to Section 4 of the bill that deals with the ability to suspend or revoke an insurer's certificate of authority, we're adding language that suggests that there is possibly information that insurance companies are utilizing the appraisal process in an attempt to initially underpay a claim and then utilizing that appraisal process to really eventually pay what they should have paid originally. Do you agree with that?
Guess that's kind of a question if you agree or not agree.
Yes, I agree that this bill gives OIR more authority to punish bad carriers who are abusing the appraisal process.
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. With regards to determining whether or not the appraisal process is being utilized in a negative manner, wouldn't we need to establish that an insurance company has a pattern and practice of utilizing appraisal to sort of punish an insured?
Yeah, the premise of the punishment is based on OIR making a determination that a carrier is abusing the appraisal process.
Where in the bill does it
Representative Cassell, go through the chair, and you did say 2 questions, just saying. Continue.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Where in the bill does it mandate OIR gather this information to determine this pattern in practice is occurring?
You're recognized.
Thank you. I'm assured it's in here, and we're looking for the specific provision. As you know, it's 120 some pages, but I'm assured it's in here that requires them to gather that information. Actually, I think it requires the carrier to provide the information and OIR to accept and then analyze the information.
Mr. Chair, one last follow-up with regards to that.
One last.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Appraisal is a process that's utilized to determine the value of a claim. And the way we determine whether or not that initial underpayment was low versus what was eventually paid in the appraisal process requires an evaluation of that undisputed payment and the eventual appraisal award. Is that information being collected currently by OIR? And then are we setting a percentage? As an example, if an insurance company has a pattern in practice of a 30% differential between the initial payment versus the appraisal award, that is sufficient to begin to establish that pattern in practice.
Recognized.
In answer to your question you asked before, it's in section 5 that requires them to gather the data. Give me just a second here. I hate to do this, but I've been trying to listen to you and listen over here too. Could you mind restating that question?
Just the question part.
Appraisal is a process that determines the value of a claim, the difference between what was originally paid by the insurance company and what a neutral panel determines is the true value. The differential is where we can establish whether or not an insurance company has a pattern in practice of underpaying. I would surmise that we need to determine, is it a 30%, 40% underpayment? Historically, that determines that is a pattern in practice of utilizing the appraisal process for nefarious reasons. Do we have an established value that we are going to ask OIR to look at to determine that appraisal is being used as contemplated by Section 4 of the bill?
You're recognized.
Thank you. No, we don't mandate a trigger, which I think is appropriate, because there could be some instances where that a carrier is doing things that fall below that trigger, but the OIR could look at it, and anyone else could look at it and say they're abusing the process. So I don't know if we want to mandate that trigger. This bill does not mandate the trigger.
Thank you.
Representative Joseph.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wanted to follow up on your response to Representative Benjamin's question about what assurances that, what recourse does the consumer have when the insurance company does not promptly process a claim, whether it's within the 60-day mark or whatever. I believe your response was to resort to a bad faith claim. And that's one of the few tools that consumers have in this process. But your bill in its current form basically eliminates bad faith as an option to them unless there's a breach of contract. So if they go beyond the 60-day mark, and I personally have had constituents who have reached out who have had claims languishing literally for years, and there was no breach of contract. All of the things that they were supposed to do, they did. But your bill takes away that one mechanism to put pressure on the insurance company to even the playing field. So if your preliminary answer or your initial answer to Representative Benjamin was bad faith, in the absence, my follow-up question would be, in the absence of a breach of contract, what recourse, if any, does the consumer have?
You're recognized.
I'm going to need to get these questions transcribed.
You want me to rephrase it?
Yeah, can you give me the
I got you.
question and then the explanation? Yeah.
So the question is, in the absence of a breach of contract by the insurer, when they are stringing a consumer along and not promptly processing a claim, what recourse does the consumer have?
You're recognized.
Okay, here's where I'm struggling. Bad faith doesn't go away. It just has a condition precedent, right? And that is the breach of contract. The situation you're describing sounds like a breach of the contract, which would then entail a bad faith claim. I hope that answers your question.
Follow up.
You're recognized.
So let's say the contract does not require that 60-day prompt provision. Is that even a thing?
Representative Leak, you're,
The carrier would still have to abide by Florida law and the statute requiring the 60-day payment. And we've said that that can be evidence of bad faith, the failure to pay within the times allotted.
Okay. Last question, Mr. Chair.
you're recognized.
Thank you. The bill currently provides that the insurer can serve a joint offer of judgment on one or more person on the condition the offer of the acceptance by all offerees. The bill does not provide this option for the policyholder. And I'm trying to understand what your rationale was to just make it one way, as opposed to also offering, let's say, the consumer the option to do a joint offer for all offerees and make it conditioned on the mutual acceptance, make the settlement or the demand of judgment conditioned on the mutual acceptance of all offerees.
You're recognized.
Thank you. I think built into the premise of your question is that there are multiple insurance carriers that upon whom the claim is being made, right? And I think what we have to recognize here is the consumer's interest is getting money from any one of those carriers, right? So they probably do not want to make it contingent on all carriers accepting the offer of judgment. To flip that on its head, where the carrier has multiple property owners and they want to make an offer of judgment on the single harm that was caused to that property, even though it was suffered by multiple property owners of the same piece of property. You wouldn't want to have one accept and the other one not accept because the case continues, right? It doesn't achieve the objectives of offer of judgment and shut down the litigation.
Follow up, Mr. Chair?
Okay, follow up.
Thank you. In that scenario that you just described, so what happens to the consumer that does want to settle and everybody else is holding out? They just have to languish while, and the only person who gets the benefit of this is the insurer?
You're recognized too.
Yeah, I think that's a faulty premise because it's the assumption that the consumer would rather take zero if one of the insurers, one of the carriers denies the claim, or whether they would take some money from a single carrier and still be able to pursue the other carriers.
No, Mr. Chair, let me clarify. Thank you. So the premise of my question right now is, let's say there's 3 people involved in the claim. I'm person A. I want to settle for the $100,000 that the insurance company wants to offer. Person B wants $200,000 and person C is like, whatever y'all want. Okay, so we got a holdout person, but the 2 of us want to settle. So we're under your bill now, we're stuck because this random holdout, brother from another mother or whoever just doesn't want to do anything. Am I understanding correctly?
Recognized.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. I appreciate your question. I understand what you're saying. Remember that the damage to the property is the whole. That's the whole pie, right? So if you have multiple owners of the same piece of property and a carrier is trying to resolve the whole of that damage, you can't give this person the whole, that person the whole, and then that person the whole, which is why you would make it contingent on all property owners accepting.
Follow up? So to conclude, that person would just be stuck.
You could try to answer that.
Yeah, I mean, that person's stuck with their bad decision to enter into a property ownership with people like you're talking about. Yes, I guess.
I think
Sometimes you
that
don't get to choose
everybody
your
that's
family.
buying property with somebody else should be careful who they're buying property with. All right. Thank you, members, for those very thoughtful questions. Last night when I went to bed, we had no amendments. Somehow we have 12 now. I was surprised. We're going to start out with amendment number 1, number 826607 by Representative Rayner. You are recognized to describe your amendment. Good morning.
By 6 o'clock.
I'm old, I do go to bed early.
All right, well, thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Just briefly, members, I want to just describe this amendment. As we're aware, in 2021, we were here dealing with property insurance again. I feel like it's Groundhog's Day. And in that, we got rid of the attorney fee multiplier and allowed insurance companies to get an attorney fee award for costs associated with securing dismissal if a claimant's suit is dismissed due to a violation of pre-suit notice. The reason that I filed this amendment is that the proposed legislation that we have in front of us that was filed by my friend, Representative Leak, deletes the attorney fee schedule adopted in 2021. I have some concerns with that. I will leave that for the debate. So what I suggested that we do is that remove the language that would delete the fee schedule adopted in 2021 and preserve the language that this legislature adopted and voted for in 2021 with regard to the attorney fee schedule. That is the amendment.
Members, any question on the amendment? Seeing no questions, do we have any public testimony? Bill. Brendan Blake, I wish to speak. You have 1 minute, sir.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman and committee members. Representative Tremont, good to see you. Your Honor, Brandon Blake, on behalf of Bolin Law Group, we ask you to reject this amendment specifically because it strikes at the heart of the principle of this reform, which is to stabilize the market by making risk predictable, specifically through the litigation portion of this. The amendment strikes and adds back in the one-way attorney fee statute, which 49 states do not have. And additionally, looking at the history of this bill, it was originally something to help level the playing field, as Representative Benjamin mentioned. However, it's become something that instead of helping is now hurting and becoming the hidden tax that Representative Leak mentioned. And so for those reasons, we would ask you to consider this. There is no lawsuit that couldn't have been filed or that could have been filed yesterday that won't be able to be filed when this amendment takes place. So therefore, it includes breach of contract, it includes bad faith. The fees are still available through 57105, the offer of judgment statute, as well as the non-binding arbitration provisions that are already present. And so for these reasons, we ask you to reject this amendment.
Thank you. Richie Kidwell, Restorations of America, or Florida. Welcome back.
Thanks.
You're recognized.
Thank you. Yeah, and good to see you. It's been a while. My name is Richie.
So we're done.
Yeah. My name is Richie Kidwell, the president of the Restoration Association of Florida. We represent hundreds of independent contractors here in the state of Florida. We are definitely up on this amendment, although the bill as a whole doesn't do anything for reducing premiums. And that's why we're here today. I looked through the 105 pages. I kept looking
We're on
through
the
it.
amendment right now.
You're right. He always gets me.
We've
I
done.
want to be up on this amendment. Have a great night.
Thank you. All right, Ron Hayes, FJA. Just trying to keep the train moving. Welcome, sir. We have 1 minute.
Mr. Chairman, thank you so much. My name is Ron Haynes on behalf of the Florida Justice Association, and we are in support of this amendment. We took significant steps in the last legislative session, specifically the special session, to reduce the attorney's fees and set up a specific schedule to do that. If we receive, in terms of the disputed amount, less than 20%, there's no attorney's fees that the insurance company has to pay whatsoever. If it's between 20 to 50% of the recovery, then the attorney's fees will be paid on that reduced amount. And if it's over 50%, then the insurance company owes the attorney's fees. That change right there already dropped in terms of the numbers that we're seeing, the litigation that was actually occurring. It is working. We just need more time for it to continue to work. That is why we are supporting this amendment, and we believe that it's fair to both the insurance company and the homeowners because it gives them access to attorneys when their claims have been wrongfully denied or underpaid. If this is taken away, it's going to be a serious detriment to the citizens of the state of Florida because they will have no way to potentially retain an attorney, the experts, and everything else that they would need to proceed with not only litigation, but the arbitration process or the appraisal process or anything else that they may have to go into. So with that being said, we support the amendment. I thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Members, we're in debate. This is just a public testimony. It's not questioning right now. Thank you. Okay, members, we are in debate. Any debate on amendment? You're recognized.
We just heard from the Florida Justice Association what harm might come to consumers, which is basically a decrease in access to the courts. I will just point out to our members that Florida has a constitutional right to access the courts that Floridians have. And I am concerned about the changes in the bill that if this amendment is not adopted, it will have a deleterious impact on Floridians' ability to access the courts and a potential concern on how that impacts their ability to exercise that state constitutional right. So I encourage you to be up on the amendment.
Thank you. Additional debate? Seeing no additional debate, I'll just make like comment. Rep, you're a good friend. You're friendly. I know you're well-intended. But I'm going to speak on behalf of myself, and I can speak for Rep. League too. We do not find this amendment friendly. The market is in grave danger right now of collapsing, and we need to do everything to try to save it. So I urge everybody not to support the amendment. Thank you. And for those in support, please say yay.
Can I close on the, I can't close on the amendment?
Oh, I'm sorry. You can.
You just
Yeah.
want to get right to it?
I know there's a lot, but
I saw what he was trying to do there.
you are recognized to close. I'm sorry.
Well, thank you, Chair Rommel. And I understand why you may not feel that this is a friendly amendment, but I do believe it's a friendly amendment for the consumers of this, the state of Florida, for the citizens of the state of Florida. I think that Representative Joseph summed up the argument best, is that we want to make sure that people have access to the courts. We want to make sure that people do not have to navigate the system by themselves. And we already heard that there's been a drop in litigation. I think that if we continue on the course that we're on with what we have currently in statute, that you will continue to see a drop in litigation. So I do encourage you to be up on this very friendly amendment, as it will protect our consumers and our constituents here in the state of Florida.
Thank you for your close, and I apologize. It's a very friendly close, but I'm still considered an unfriendly amendment. So for those in support, please say yay. No? No? So that amendment has failed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Up next, amendment number 2, 592963 by another friendly member, Rep. Joseph. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This amendment basically just repeals the bad faith changes to the law, which I think, again, decreases Floridians' access to the courts. As I mentioned before, bad faith is one of the few tools that consumers have to counterbalance coming against a behemoth of an insurance company. And I've had, mixed experiences with insurance companies. My constituents have reached out about all kinds of crazy things. And I'm sure many of you sitting in the audience or listening to this or watching this have your own stories about your interactions with insurance companies. So whatever we can do to help just empower the regular guy or gal to go through this process, I think we should give them all those tools. And this is one of them. So that would be the purpose of the amendment, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Members, do we have any questions to Rep. Joseph? No questions? Public testimony? Aram Arijan?
Aaron McGarrion on behalf of the
McGarrion.
Florida Justice Reform Institute, and
Welcome
we
to the
are
amendment. Thank you.
we are here speaking in opposition to this amendment. The amendment simply codifies and strengthens what the law is and has been in Florida for many, many years, that you must prove a breach of contract first before bringing a bad faith action against an insurance company. Seems to make a lot of common sense. Florida courts over the years have specifically said, well, that doesn't make sense because of appraisal and some other things that could happen. However, this doesn't change that. If an insurance company improperly invokes appraisal too late or as a delay mechanism and does it on multiple different occasions, a breach of contract can still be proven. However, an insurance company who follows the letter of the law provides different methodologies in order to resolve claims and discourage lawsuits. That's what we should be doing, and that's what this law does. This amendment tries to impact that and remove it, and that's why we oppose it.
Thank you. Richie Kidwell, Restorations of Florida. Thank you, sir. Waiving in support of the amendment. Dave Murray, FPCA.
Good afternoon. David Murray on the Florida Policyholders Cooperative. We're an organization that works to protect policyholders on changes such as this. A civil remedy notice is a Florida statutory notice of an insurance company performing some type of improper conduct or engaging in improper practices. Gives an insurance company 60 days to come in and cure its conduct. Those are not filed by consumers. Those are normally filed by their attorneys. What this change does is it says that an insurance company can lie, cheat, and steal to an insured, and as long as they demand appraisal or arbitration to resolve the dispute, they'll never see the inside of a courtroom, and therefore a breach of contract action will never be able to be proven, and therefore the insured will never have a right to a potential bad faith claims handling case. All we're asking for is that you consider a change that would say resolution of an appraisal and arbitration in a certain fashion would leave an avenue for the insured to challenge the insurance company's determination and whether they acted in bad faith. If you pass this statute as currently written, it will directly affect every Hurricane Ian victim that's currently trying to get their claim adjusted. So we're in favor of the amendment.
Great, thank you for your testimony. Members, we are in debate. Seeing no debate, hold on. Representative Cassell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wanted to point out a disagreement that I have with one of the presenters with regards to what appraisal actually does. So appraisal bars recovery on a breach of contract. The concept of appraisal as an alternative dispute resolution mechanism is to keep it out of the courthouse. So when appraisal is invoked, regardless of the time, regardless of the circumstances that led up to appraisal, it resolves all issues. The reason why the courts came in and said, wait a second, if you go to appraisal and you get a favorable judgment, we're going to utilize that judgment, that award, to serve as though you went through a breach of contract because you are barred from filing a breach of contract and moving forward. So by removing appraisal as a piece of judgment to be utilized in a bad faith cause of action, there is no bad faith cause of action. And this does effectively take away the ability to show pattern and practices of misbehavior of insurance companies. So I ask that you all stand in support of this amendment. Thank you.
Additional debate? Okay. Again, once again, I just want to say that, again, this is a friendly member, but one of the biggest things that we're trying to change here are some of the practices of litigation and get in line with the additional other states, the majority of other states that don't have the same problem that we have here in Florida, and that's what this bill does. So unfortunately, I'm going to speak for myself, and I can speak for Chairman Leake, that we find this unfriendly. And friendly Rep. Joseph, you are recognized to close.
Thank you, friendly chair. This is really not that complicated. We know what we're dealing with, and I know I'm speaking to the members, and we know how we're going to vote, and that's fine, but I'm speaking to your constituents through you. Going through this process is intimidating. If you don't have a lawyer, it's even more stacked against you. You just heard the gentleman try to explain how easy it is to prove a breach of contract, but then you also heard about how easy it is to get around that. Right? Like, imagine you and your constituents, your mom, your dad, your brother, sister, grandpa, grandma, going through this process. It is intimidating. This is a little piece to make it a little bit easier for them. And that was the law. The gentleman spoke earlier in opposition to the amendment and said that, breach of contract is already the law of the land. And it is. So why do we need to mess with it? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Accept my amendment, let us leave it alone, and we'll call it a day. But that's just it. It's not. So this amendment is supposed to help fix the unnecessary fix. With that, I close.
Thank you, members. If you're in support, say yay. Oh, okay. I would say if you are non-support, say nay. The nays have it and show that amendment failed. We almost got the sponsor. Up next, amendment number 3, 369337 by Rep. Joseph.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the last property insurance special session we came in, we gave a $2 billion bailout to insurance companies. This time, there's another billion. This amendment is designed to just share the wealth with some consumers, just a little bit, not a lot, okay? It requires an actuarially sound premium discount credit for any homeowner insurance policy that provides an option for limited coverage or requires a separate policy as a condition of coverage. So that's the first part of the amendment. What does that mean? That means that, so let's say you start off with this, fancy insurance product and they take away some of it. You get less coverage. So if you get less coverage, guess what? You should also have to pay less. That's what this part of the amendment is designed to do. If you get less coverage, you pay less. Not complicated. And it needs to be actuarially sound. The second part of the amendment focuses on rate increases. So what it would do is it would freeze rates for homeowner insurance in 2023, just for a year, and requires rate decreases at least 6.4% per year during 2024, 2025, and 2026. So it freezes rates for just a year to give homeowners some kind of relief while we do whatever we're doing with the insurance companies. It's nice to stabilize the markets, but what about the people of Florida? It would be nice to stabilize their pocketbooks as well. So this is a little measure designed to address the cost impact on Floridians. It's not a big deal. It's super simple, and it makes a lot of sense. I encourage you to consider the amendment. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Members, any questions? Public testimony. We have Dave Murray from FPCA. Welcome back. You have 1 minute.
There's insurance coverage in the state of Florida has been eroded and premiums have continued to increase. There's been limitations on mold coverage, there's been limitations on sinkhole coverage, and there's been limitations on water coverage. But while we're reducing that coverage, we're not giving the consumer an adequate set-off for what they're giving up. A consumer 5 years ago that had a $100,000 policy for water had $100,000 worth of water coverage. Now they have a $10,000 endorsement and they save all of $12. So we've taken away $90,000 of coverage in the favor of $12. And a consumer doesn't know that. When they're shopping for insurance, they're looking at the bottom line. This is a bill that's meaningful that says if we're going to take something away and we need to pass along that savings to the consumer, a real savings, not a token savings, but a savings that they can see. The last part I would just say with regards to the rate freezes, as we overhaul Florida insurance bills and the law in the state of Florida, a temporary rate freeze would be a great idea so people can look at what they're buying, how they're buying it, and what they're actually getting for what they pay. It's not an unreasonable request. We're in favor of the amendment. Please consider it.
Thank you. Michael Carlson, Personal Insurance Federation.
Morning, Chairman. Michael Carlson with the Personal Insurance Federation of Florida against the amendment. Members, the amendment, parts 1 and 2, as well explained by the sponsor, violate the rating law. We have a rating law in Florida, 627.062, requires rates cannot be inadequate, excessive, or unfairly discriminatory. There's an entire process and body of actuarial science which goes into rates. Every insurance rate, every insurance discount is filed with the Office of Insurance Regulation, approved or disapproved, based upon the justification provided by the insurer. This provision, while well-intended, and I understand where the sponsor is trying to go, let's get at rate relief, will disrupt that. We are in a situation where coverage is being reduced because the costs are unsustainably high. The litigation environment is unsustainable. The bill, I think, puts us on a path to long-term stability. What that will ultimately lead to is the kind of rate relief, not as specific as this, as I think you all want to get. So for those reasons, we would ask that you vote no.
Thank you. Members were in debate. Representative Arrington, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And first off, I want to thank my colleague, Rep. Joseph, for this amendment. This is the only thing I've heard today that actually guarantees that rates won't be raised high on our constituents, and also would guarantee that rate decreases. I know we all are hearing from our constituents different issues and different problems, but I think the one simple one we all hear is the pricing. And I worry, like, for folks, our senior citizens and those that lived on the fixed income, that this legislation will actually price them out and then they won't have any coverage at all. So I urge my colleagues to vote up on this bill, and thank you again, Rep. Joseph, for sponsoring this amendment.
All right. Rep. Joseph, I appreciate you bringing this. I swear I think I've seen this exact language from Rep. Geller the last 4 years when I've run some other insurance bills, except the years have changed. I understand your intent, and both you and Rep. Geller are both very friendly, but I find this as an unfriendly amendment. So you're recognized to close.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I actually had no communications with Representative Geller, so great minds think alike. I will address 2 points from the opponent of the public commenter opponent of the bill. He talked about making sure that it was actuarially sound. That's actually a part of the bill. I didn't read that when I was presenting the bill, the amendment. I didn't read that, but that's a requirement that whatever discount that we give, that it be actuarially sound. So it just makes sense. If you're getting less coverage, why not get a discount? You shouldn't be paying the same amount for less coverage. It just doesn't make sense. And you can do it in a way that's actually sound. There's a whole principle of body that deals with making sure that it's actuarially sound. So we can do it legally. The other thing I would point out is that, we have all kinds of exceptions to make discounts for things when we want to as a legislative body. That's literally our job, is to make those kind of laws. So one area where you find exceptions to this rate increase approval process is in the area of surplus lines. We do it. They're able to do these, and sometimes with these these MGAs, they're able to do it too. I'm just asking that if we're doing this already, and we can create a discount or freeze or any kind of rate relief for property insurance owners, that this might be a way to do it. Does it have to be this way? Absolutely not. I don't care how the relief gets to the consumer. I just know that I have people who are calling me, people who in my family I've had to personally help on my $29,500 income as a state legislator with their property insurance because they literally could not afford it because they're on fixed income. I don't know what your stories are, but I know that that is not a unique story in the state of Florida. So we're here to deal with property insurance. Why don't we do with property insurance for the consumer, in addition to market stabilization for the insurance companies that sometimes pay out billions of dollars and millions of dollars in executive bonuses to people who do not need it when Floridians are struggling? On that, I close on the amendment.
Thank you. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those not in favor, nay? Nay. Show that amendment failed. Thank you. Up next, amendment number 4, 857397 by Rep. Cassell. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We know that OIR has a big job to do, and contained within those job duties is a collection of an extensive amount of data. But what we're hearing today is that collection of data and that oversight is a may. They may look into it. What this amendment does is say, when you have an insurance company that has 20% of the policies that have been impacted by a hurricane, we want to look into them. This is a shall. When you are an insurance company that has received or is among the top 20% of complaints received from consumers, you shall look into this. We recognize and understand that our commissioner has a big job to do with a lot of moving parts, but let's mandate when we want OIR to look into certain behaviors being conducted and performed by insurance companies. This crisis We are not here because this is one-sided. We talk about the litigation being one-sided, but there is another side to that. So let's mandate and make OIR look into companies when we know that they have a high percentage of the policies in a devastated area, when they've received a lot of consumer complaints. Let's just make it a shall, and that's what this amendment does.
Thank you. No public testimony. Oh, we do. Ron Haynes, FJA. One minute, sir.
Thank you so much. This amendment, we are in support of this amendment. Naturally, I'm Ron Haynes on behalf of FJA because it goes a little further than what the sponsor actually provided. It actually also asks that you track insurance companies based on whether or not they compelled insurers to participate in the appraisal process in order to secure full payment or settlement of other such claims. Not only am I with FJA, but I also represent people against insurance companies. And they love to use appraisal as a sword rather than a shield. I'll give you a classic real world example. I had a case that had gone on for 3 years. It was actually set for trial. 1 week before trial, they come in and demand appraisal. And the point is, they knew they owed it all along. And yet here we are, delaying, and then trying to use this process to get out of not only the trial, the breach of contract, and now potentially bad faith that we're proposing here today. And so I think that would be valuable information for the state of Florida to have in terms of what companies are actually abusing the appraisal process. Further, this also tracks the number of policies canceled or non-renewed while a claim is pending. Once again, real world examples. I have clients that are in litigation. The claim has been denied. The policy gets canceled. They go to all the insurance carriers, can't get insurance. They go to Citizens. They can't get insurance. What are they supposed to do? And what happens there is something called a clue database that insurance companies voluntarily report to. And that tracks actual coverage based and claims based on property, not individual. So when they go out and brokers see it, they say, we're not offering insurance. These people have no options. So once again, this is tracking bad actors in the actual insurance environment. We need to be in control of these. If we're going to do market surveys and try to stabilize the market, these are two definite areas that I think we need to stabilize. That's why we are in support of this amendment. And I would ask that you guys vote. This amendment actually goes forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Members from the committee. Seeing no debate. Again, another thoughtful amendment, but we find it unfriendly, and I ask those members to vote no on it. All those in favor, oh, I'm sorry, Representative Cassell, we have a lot of amendment. You are recognized to close.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I just would like to add, I am a friendly sponsor as well. I haven't heard you say that yet, but I know you feel that way. And thank you, Mr. Haynes. I had that information for another amendment, so thank you for bringing that information, and I definitely echo your sentiments. But listen, OIR has a lot of decisions to make on a daily basis about the information they gather, they review, that they collect. So let's take that decision-making process when we're dealing with claims and looking into the bad behavior of what insurance companies may be doing, especially when we know it's in a devastated area where they have high policy numbers. Let's ask for that information to be reported and make it a shall. Thank you.
All right, all those in favor of a very friendly new Representative Cassell, please say yay. Yay. Okay, and all those not in favor say nay. Show that amendment has failed. Up next, amendment number 5, number 1581 by Representative Nixon. You're recognized. Welcome to the Commerce Committee. Good morning.
Good morning, Chair Rommel, Vice Chair Maney, and the entire Commerce Committee. I stand before you today to offer what should be considered a friendly amendment, particularly friendly for consumers, ratepayers, customers, the constituents we serve. This amendment would simply task the consumer advocate to report directly to the Commissioner of Agriculture at the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services, as opposed to the CFO in the Department of Financial Services. This would allow the insurance consumer advocate to be housed in a department where there are other consumer advocates that do their jobs. It would also be the consumer advocate's jobs to prepare cost impact statements with any rate changes And with rates rising dramatically in property insurance, the consumer advocate should have the authority to prepare consumer cost impact statements on rate-informed filings submitted to OIR. Consumers will be able to see how a particular rate filing will affect them financially. This amendment would provide the advocate with the necessary autonomy to serve consumers without the perception of conflict of interest. Currently, the OIR is approving forms, endorsements, and exclusions which significantly alter and reduce coverages in the insurance policy contract. And I think it's even more important for the consumer advocate to have more of a voice in representing the public on insurance issues. It will also enable them to more thoroughly do their job. My amendment further arms the consumer advocate with more authority to gather evidence and take testimony in investigations by issuing subpoenas for and compel the production of books, papers, records, documents, and other evidence pertaining to any investigation. The consumer advocate, when conducting an investigation, shall have access to premises, records, documents, and other evidence as reasonably necessary for the furtherance of the investigation. This increased advocacy by the consumer advocate could also mitigate some of the costly decisions being made on the rate-informed filings. This will ensure more transparency and rebuild the trust amongst our consumers and constituents about the regulation of Florida's insurance industry. That is the amendment.
Members, do you have any questions? Seeing no questions, public debate. Ron Haynes, FJA. Waving in support? You may, you actually may.
As you guys know, Ron Haynes on behalf of FJA, we are definitely in support of this amendment. If the property bill is passed as written, unfortunately, it is eroding and taking away multiple rights that property owners and insureds have in the state of Florida. So having a consumer advocate obviously would be a huge benefit to the citizens, where they would have some option in terms of where to go if all the other options are exhausted. So naturally, we would support this amendment. I appreciate that, Senator, for bringing it. And I ask that you vote for it. We're in support of it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Seeing no more public testimonies, members were in debate. Friendly Representative Cassell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I would like to thank my colleague, Representative Nixon, for bringing this very friendly and much-needed amendment. You know, when we're talking about an insurance market where a lot of data is collected but kept confidential and kept behind closed doors, where it's not given access to the public and given access even to legislators, to members, to us, to review, to really ensure what information we're being told is in fact accurate or doesn't come with a skewed presentation. And by putting our insurance consumer advocate, who is there to advocate for the consumers in a department separate and apart from the Chief Financial Officer and Office of Insurance Regulation, this could allow her to truly be he or she, but currently she, truly be a consumer advocate of the people, which the people of Florida need. So I strongly urge you to vote up in this amendment, and I thank you, Representative Nixon, for bringing it.
Representative Joseph.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to say thank you. Thank you for standing there. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your amendment. Sometimes people don't understand everything that we do and sacrifice and put aside to be here. So I wanted to thank you for that and this amendment. And I wanted to thank everybody who shows up to actually say something at these hearings. It matters, whether you're speaking for or against. I just want to say thank you. And with that, I encourage you to support the amendment.
Thank you for your presentation. And unfortunately, we don't find this one friendly, myself or Representative Leak. And I ask members not to support it, but you are recognized to close.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I noticed you didn't call me friendly, but that's okay. According to the FDAC site, the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services supports and promotes Florida agriculture, protects the environment, safeguards consumers, and ensures the safety and wholesomeness of food. Also on that site, it states, Through regulation and mediation, we safeguard consumers from unlawful and deceptive business practices. We're the state's clearinghouse for consumer concerns. Our call center analysts answer questions, provide information, and help resolve complaints. As proponents of a free state, it's only right that members accept this amendment to ensure that the consumer advocate is free from political games and free from what can be seen as a conflict of interest in the Office of Insurance Regulation, and being that they are able to grade their own work. This is the Sunshine State. Floridians have the right to know that those who are put in place to advocate on their behalf are actually doing just that. Please vote yes on this friendly amendment.
Thank you for that close. And members that, anybody that loves this and would like to vote up on it, say yay. Yay. And those against, nay. Nay. So that amendment failed, and thank you. And I'm sorry if I didn't say you're friendly, because you were very friendly. All right, up next, amendment number 6, 866725 by Representative Cassell. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, what this amendment would do would be requires publishing of certain data by OIR and OPAGA of property insurance financial information, making that information available to the public. I know a lot of that information is considered confidential, trade secret. However, what my amendment does is when that information and data is collected in the aggregate, it does not single out individual insurance companies for their financial information. It puts it in the aggregate and gives consumers access to the information, right? We need an insurance market that's transparent, because when we have transparency, we have accountability. Right now, we are lacking that in this marketplace, and that is what the amendment would do.
Thank you. Members, questions? Seeing no questions, public testimony. Dave Murray from FPC. Wave in support, saving his steps. Members, we're in debate. Again, friendly Rep. Cassell, welcome to the Commerce Chair. You're very active today. You're friendly. Unfortunately, myself and Chair Leak don't find this friendly, and you were recognized to close.
And in that spirit, Mr. Chair, I will waive my closing.
Okay, all those in favor say yay. Yay. Against, nay? Show that amendment has failed. Up next, amendment number 7, 822549 by Rep. Joseph. You are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this amendment is a similar one to the prior one from Representative Cassell, and making a made to a shall. So this amendment requires OIR to conduct a market conduct examination of each property insurer after a hurricane. Because there's a lot going on after these hurricanes and what people do or don't do. We've seen some concerning trends with some insurance carriers. Not our good, we have some good players in the Florida market, some who have some good industry practices, but we also have some bad players. And I know we like to make, some people like to make certain kinds of attorneys the boogeymen, but it's not always attorneys. There are some actors that we need to see what's going on, and this would just have OIR look and see what's going on after a hurricane. That is the amendment, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Members, any questions on that amendment? Seeing no questions, any public testimony? Ron Haynes, FJA. Thank you. I appreciate that. Waving in support. And that's all we got. Members, we are in debate. Seeing no debate. Again, Rep. Joseph, I appreciate your intent, and unfortunately, myself and Chair Leak do not find this friendly, and you were recognized to close.
I'll waive close.
Waiving closed. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those against, nay. Nay. Show that amendment has failed. Up next, we have amendment number, we're on 8 now? We are number 8. Representative Joseph, present 083387.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This amendment adds additional conduct that would be considered as an unfair method of competition or unfair deceptive acts or practice by an insurer. So right now, so the language, it just says compelling insureds to institute litigation to recover undue to amounts due under an insurance policy by offering substantially less than the amounts ultimately recovered in actions brought by such insureds. So if you've done everything you were supposed to do and they just string you along for months and years and it wasn't even worth it, like they just wasted your time, that would make it an unfair, deceptive practice. That's the amendment.
Questions? 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 We have a couple public testimonies. Aram Najarian. Wave in opposition. Thank you. Dave Murray. Wants to get, you're going to probably get up to like 7,000 steps today because you're probably,
It's in my run, but we're getting it in.
you're
Nice and healthy.
recognized.
But this proposed amendment actually follows some language in Louisiana. And in April of 2022, the Louisiana Department of Insurance fined Federated National and United Property and Casualty Insurance Company for violating this type of conduct. United was fined $250,000. Federated about, I think it was proposed for $173,000. If we're going to make changes to the statutes and provide protections for insurance companies, we should consider these type of amendments that would provide protections for consumers. Part of the reason I step up to speak on this is because Federated was fined $173,000 and that company's gone into receivership. But what this committee might not know is that in July of 2022, months before the company went into receivership, their CEO took a golden parachute of $1.2 million. So we have insurance executives taking millions of dollars through MGAs and different type of arrangements, and then we're leaving consumers to clean up the mess in the state of Florida. So please consider the amendment.
Thank you for your testimonies. Members, we are in debate. Seeing no debate, again, not to be repetitive, but myself and Chair Leak find this unfriendly and you're recognized to close.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Florida is not the only state that deals with disasters. But we are the only one that has this disaster of a property insurance market. And that's because we allow some of this foolishness to go down. This is straight foolishness. When you have these kind of unfair practices, whether they're in the small scale or in the large scale. And it's stuff that we don't have to take. We don't have to tolerate it. We can do something about it. Whether it's through OIR, whether it's through the Attorney General's office. There are a whole host of folks who can act, but for whatever reason right now are not. This little amendment just gives another tool to address a very alarming issue that we have in Florida. And it puts a little bit of power back into the hands of the little guy. With that, I ask you to support the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you for a close. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Or we're losing the ayes there, and all those against, nay. Show that amendment has failed. Amendment number 990-6433 by Rep. Joseph.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This amendment, which one we on now? Good Lord, 9. Okay.
9.
Adds additional context. Why does it say that? That's the same thing. That's not right. Hold on.
It does
Mr.
look
Chair,
like the same thing.
I'm not sure why, but
Yeah,
it's
you know
showing-
what? I don't know why it's filed twice with 2 different numbers, but
Is it the same? Well, Mr. Chair, if it's okay
you
with
wa-
you, let me jump down to 10 and I'll figure out what's going on.
you know
with
what? If
9.
you want, do you want to withdraw number 9 then for now?
If it is identical, I would like to withdraw it, but I'm
I
not
just wanna make
sure.
sure.
I don't think it is. I think it's just the summary is written wrong.
You know what? We'll get back with you before the end of the committee if we can to verify that, but you can jump to number 10, amendment.
Thank you.
485599.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Amendment number 10 specifies that a property insurer may make a joint offer of judgment or settlement, and a plaintiff may make a joint demand of judgment or settlement conditioned on the mutual acceptance of all joint offerees. This is an equitable amendment that I actually borrowed from Senator Rousseau, and I thought it made sense, so I just offered it up here. That is the amendment, ladies and gentlemen.
Any questions on amendment number 10? Seeing no questions, do we have some public testimony? Let's see. Aaron Majeran, come on up there, FJRI.
Justice Reform Institute, I'm here in opposition to the amendment. And just to clarify certain things, one, I would say 90% of the lawsuits that my law firm handles, which is one of the largest defense-only firms, and I'm here in support of these amendments, even though it's going to, I'm sorry, in support of the law, but against the amendments, which is going to hurt my practice tremendously. Because we have a husband and a wife, or two individuals who own the property, joints, tenants in common, without the ability to file a proposal for settlement. Typically, and a plaintiff could file a proposal for settlement. They don't have to be joint offers. They can just make it just for themselves if they like, and make it enforceable to recover their attorney's fees. Hence why this amendment is not necessary. And that's why we oppose it.
Thank you. Members, we're in debate. Seeing no debate except for my repetitive statement that.
Mr. Chair, before you say how unfriendly the amendment is, I'm just going to withdraw that particular one. Can I do that?
You're gonna, I'm sorry.
Can I just withdraw that particular amendment? The one that we're discussing right now? Yep.
You, okay, from the representative's request, show amendment number 10 withdrawn. And Rep. Joseph, we're going to go back to number 9 because it's extremely similar, but there's a little bit different. So if you want to present number 9.
If you wouldn't mind going to Cassell first for hers and then give me a second to.
Yeah, I'll do that. Okay, we're
Thank
going to
you.
jump over to, hopefully staff is following, amendment number 11, 314735 by Friendly, Rep. Cassell.
Thank you, friendly Mr. Chair. If you're sensing a theme with my amendments, that's because I think transparency to the public is extremely important portion of this process that we are missing. What Amendment 11 does is requires office to publish the aggregated claims data submitted by each insurance company to our insurance commissioner on a monthly basis. That aggregated claims data for an individual or insurer or group is not trade secret. It's not subject to an exemption of public law because once again, when it's presented in the aggregate and doesn't individually single out specific insurance companies with their data and their information, that trade secret information is not applicable. We need transparency. We have a marketplace in crisis. It is not one-sided. There are insurance companies that underpay, wrongfully deny claims. That financial data helps us determine whether or not that their finances are going into the MGAs, are going into other places and claiming to be insolvent. So let's make that data available. Let's publish it. Let's let the public take a look at it so we can have transparency and checks and balances. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Members, questions? Seeing no questions, public testimony. Aaron Majeran. Wave in opposition. Okay. Members, we're in debate. Any debate? Again, Rep. Cassell, we appreciate your consideration and friendly type of amendment, but we find it unfriendly. So you are recognized to close.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And transparency is crucial to ensure in the future that we keep a stable marketplace. We're not there now. Our goal is to get there, but we also have to remember this is not the first time the state of Florida has been in a property insurance crisis. We were here after Hurricane Andrew. We were here after the 04-05 storms, and we're here again. In order to prevent that in the future, we've got to have transparency. We've got to have access to the information, and we need to make sure that information is not being funneled in a manner where it's being presented that benefits one side over the other. This amendment would allow the public to have access to information to hold their insurance companies accountable when they're giving dividends and payouts to MGAs. And this is a favorable amendment to help stabilize that marketplace that we've all been talking about.
Thank you. For your close, for all those in support, say yay. Yay. All against, nay. Show that amendment failed. And Rep. Joseph, are you ready to pick up amendment number 9 again? Number
Sir, yes,
9,
sir.
which is 906433, and you're recognized.
Thank you for your patience, Mr. Chair. So this amendment, which I absolutely am not withdrawing, is one that contributes to transparency in the process. So basically what this particular amendment number 9 would do is it make sure that the insurance company shares with the insured a couple of things that lead to funny business in the claims process. So specifically, altering a field adjuster's initial estimate, report, photographs, or written comments regarding photographs or observations of an insured risk without express written approval of the adjuster obtained within 5 days after alteration, which clearly explains in detail the nature and extent of the changes. So if you're changing it, we want to know what those changes are. In addition, failing to provide an insured with a complete, unredacted, unaltered copy of the field adjuster's initial report, estimate, and photographs within 10 business days after receipt of such materials, or failing to provide an insured with a complete, unredacted, unaltered copy of any report or estimate obtained from an engineer, an environmental consultant, contractor, or any other specialist retained by the insurer to investigate a claim within 10 business days after receipt of such report or estimate. So we just want to make sure that as the process is happening, that the consumer has access to all the same information in its original form as presented by the reporter, and the changes that have been made. That is the amendment, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Members, any questions? Questions? No questions. We're in public testimony. Aaron Majeran. Waive in opposition. Ron Haynes. You're recognized.
Mr. Chair, thank you.
Back.
Yes, Ron Haynes, on behalf of Florida Justice Association. I just want to let you guys know, as I stated, I represent people against insurance companies. This is happening in the real world. Now, I have the ability to try to get this information if we're in litigation through discovery, but individuals will not. I see all the time photos that have information redacted where they won't describe what the photo is or what the adjuster thought the damage was. I see all the time where they'll make a claims decision and it will be based on an engineering report and they won't give you the engineering report. I think that is all that this amendment is asking, is let's have a level, fair playing field. So the citizens of the state of Florida, if they decide they want to oppose it or just to simply understand it, have the information and the same information that the insurance company has. So with that, we would ask that you vote for this particular amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. Richie Kidwell, Restoration Florida. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Members, we are in debate. Representative Cassell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'd like to thank my colleague, Representative Joseph, for bringing forth an extremely important amendment. I have practiced in this space for 13 out of 16 of my years of my legal career. I've represented pretty much every insurance company under the sun. And the last 9 years, I've represented homeowners. And this happens every single day. Adjusters change data. They change information. They withhold it. They don't provide it so easily as Mr. Haynes presented in discovery to a lawyer. They claim it to be confidential. They claim it to be work product. If we are going to pass this bill, which we all know what the numbers look like, this bill limits consumers' abilities to hold insurance companies accountable. The cards are stacked against them. And when you have information that is critical to consumers to be able to level that playing field, they need access to it. And as a lawyer, I don't have access to it. I have to fight for it. And I have to fight for it on behalf of the consumers. And those estimates are changed all the time. And they're changed to the detriment of consumers. And the person who changes that estimate isn't provided to the consumer. It's hidden in a claim file note that we don't get access to until a bad faith cause of action. This provides transparency to a consumer who is now going to have to operate an extremely complicated process on their own, because most lawyers will not be able to help those single-family homeowners, those condominium owners. Those small claims are going to have to be handled on their own. And these insurance companies hide the information, they change the information, and they don't provide it. So if we're going to take away consumers' ability to have advocates on their side that they don't have to pay for out of their pocket, they should have access to this information without having to jump through every hoop and every obstacle that I, as a lawyer, currently have to do to get it. This helps consumers. When you go back home to your constituents and have to explain to them that you've raised your rates through this bill, that they're not going to see decreases in their rates, that you've prevented access to the courts, at least give them the data that the insurance company keeps in their claim files.
With that, you close. Members, all those in favor, say aye. Oh. Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're
I don't have-
recognized to close.
Thank you. I don't have much to add substantively beyond what's in the text of the amendment and what my colleague just shared. I would just close with this. If an insurance company is denying your claim, wouldn't you want to know why? And the last question I would leave you with is, why wouldn't they want to share with you why? With that, I close, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, and I apologize. Rep. Cassell did such a good job. I thought it was to close. So all those in favor, say aye. Aye. That was a loud aye. All those against, nay? Nay. No, we'll show that amendment has also failed. Members, you have a handwritten amendment number 12 that has been handed out. Representative Benjamin will offer this amendment as a courtesy to Rep. Hart. Representative Benjamin, this amendment appears to be out of order of the call of the special order, but I'll allow you to briefly explain it. And you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As you said, this has been given to me by the chair of the Legislative Black Caucus, and this amendment does the following. It's to assist individuals of low income means to rebuild and repair their homes after a major weather event and to bring that home up to code in order to pass inspection. This is important because, as we saw with Hurricane Ian, many low income areas such as the Harlem Heights were decimated and lacked the support and resources to begin to rebuild. And if there was a fund to assist individuals and that individual could take advantage of, then things would be much different. So this amendment sets aside $200 million for low-income individuals with homes built before 1960. And this is important as many of the homes in these economically depressed areas are older homes, and they have been passed down as the family home for many of their the heirs of the original owners. And so that is the bill, that is the amendment, and I ask for your successful passage.
Thank you, Rep. Benjamin. Members, this amendment is out of order, and I appreciate Representative Benjamin presented on Representative Hart. But since it's outside the specific call, the special session proclamation, it's not debatable, and we won't vote on it. But I would love to work with you and Rep. Hart during regular session if we could. So thank you for your presentation. Members, we are back on the bill. I think we're all in order on all the amendments, and appreciate you guys putting up with me getting confused at times. And we do have quite a bit of public testimony. We have an hour and 7 minutes left. And what do we have? We have about 50 public testimony. So we're going to keep public testimony to 1 minute per, and date will have to be limited because we have to give Chairman Leak the proper time to close. So I would say we're going to end at 11:55 with everything and let Chair Leak close. So we're going to start with public testimony. Katie Webb, APCIA, you are recognized. Wave it in support. John Alba from my family, Hurricane Michael victim. Second officially, but first to speak at the mic, but welcome to the far side of the house.
Yes, sir. John Alba. I am a friendly citizen who is a Hurricane Michael impacted person. I have been dealing with our insurance company with litigation for 4 years now. Just to put in perspective, with Pearl Harbor Day being last week, my grandfather enlisted, helped fight a war, and save the world in World War II in less time than I have been out of my house dealing with this problem with this insurance company. And my message yesterday to the Senate and my message here today is we seem to be blaming litigation, and it feels like you're blaming me as a consumer. I've yet to see a big pie chart anywhere in these sessions that say why. Why are we suing? I don't see that. I think that if you go back, do your homework, if OIR goes back and does the homework, does that data, produces that, I think they'll go a long way to seeing that, you know, it's not us who want to be up here litigating. We don't want to be litigating. I don't want to be in on this. But I was forced into it. This bill, I'm not in support of this bill. I am in support of reform, and I'm not in support of this bill because in a David and Goliath situation, I think this bill effectively gives Goliath a better helmet. Thank you for your time, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Natalie Alba. Followed by Vanessa Alba. Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm troubled by this bill. My family is still struggling after Hurricane Michael, though it's been 4 years. We did everything right, secured homeowners insurance and flood insurance, even though our home is designated as an ex-flood zone. When we began working with the insurance after the storm, we believed in the process. We believed that our insurance company would be trustworthy, and we were proven wrong. Our insurance company underpaid us, lied to us about how we could use our loss of use funds, and used stall tactics that include more than 8 desk adjusters and refusing to send paperwork up the appropriate chain. We did not seek legal counsel until our 3 years was almost out, and it was a scramble to find counsel. We now find ourselves paying mortgage for a home we can't live in, a property we can't park an RV on while we wait for the legal process to play out, because our city has passed a new ordinance eliminating RV use for those still trying to recover from Michael. Where would we be if Hurricane Michael had happened after this bill had passed? I don't see how this bill protects homeowners from incompetent at best, but more likely predatory insurance companies. I understand we are in an insurance crisis, but consumers must be protected and retain the tools they need to fight when wronged. This is what we should stand for, whether liberal or conservative, which I am. If the companies aren't being held accountable now, then how do we expect them to be held accountable with this bill? Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Vanessa Alba. Hi, welcome.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Vanessa Alba. I am 17 years old, and I attend North Bay Haven in Bay County. I'm the eldest of 6, and we are residents of Mexico Beach. When Hurricane Michael hit, I was 12 years old and beginning 7th grade. 18 days later, I spent my 13th birthday working. The only celebration I had was with a maple glazed donut from Dunkin' Donuts. There was no cake, no presents, and no friends. My home had been flooded and was unlivable, and my life had become a nightmare overnight. Before the storm, I attended an online Christian school called Colby Academy. I would sign into school on a computer in a designated study room full of my textbooks and notebooks. After the storm, however, while other kids from my school were attending on computers, I was attending classes on an iPad that is too old to be used for an hour and a half classes. The iPad might as well be an antique. There was no Wi-Fi at my home anymore, so while we drove 2 hours back and forth between Alabama and Florida, I used my mother's hotspot on her phone. However, when she and my father were on the phone with the insurance company or walking around the house taking pictures, while I was in the car, I would lose the connection and be kicked out of class. When I wasn't in class, I was either working or watching my siblings, so they would not be injured by the ceiling-high debris which littered the roads and the sewer water which made the ground muddy. We drove 4 hours round trip every day to work on our house for over 2 months. To this day, I'm still not in my house. The insurance company not paying has led us to not being finished with our house. While other kids have a bedroom, I have a bunk bed in the back of an RV. While other teenagers spend their Friday evenings and Saturday afternoons hanging out, we cannot invite people over or have people or have family game and movie nights at a house, and an insurance company doesn't care to help fix it. I have been unable to do the normal things other teenagers have been able to do, like inviting friends over and sleeping in a sound and secure home. I and my siblings are without a home to live in because a bunch of adults do not want to honor my parents' insurance contract. My siblings and I feel betrayed, lied to, and angered by the insurance company for not accomplishing their job of honoring their contract. My 14-year-old sister Mairead feels angered by the insurance company for not accomplishing their job of honoring their contract. My 11-year-old brother Nathaniel finds our situation difficult as a growing boy as he is unable to invite his friends from his baseball team to our home. My 9-year-old sister Evelyn feels horrible having to live her childhood in an RV and not our home. My 3-year-old brother Gregory and 1-year-old sister Clara have not been able to sleep, play, and eat in a stable and secure home. Both little ones were brought home from the hospital to a hotel and RV respectively. So while CEOs, employees, and accountants are sleeping in comfortable homes, my siblings and I are living in an RV, discarded by our insurance company, and now, it seems, by our state. Mexico Beach, the place of my home, is often called the Forgotten Coast. I do feel forgotten. I feel forgotten by our insurance company. I feel forgotten by my neighbors. And now I feel forgotten by my state.
Thank you for your testimony. Ron Haynes, Florida Justice Association. Followed by David Murray.
Mr. Chair. Kind of difficult to follow that. But the problem with this bill is you guys are setting up a scheme where people will not have access to anything. They won't have access to courts, they won't have access to help, they won't have access to attorneys, they won't have access to engineers. And we're going to hear more and more stories just like that. And so the problem is, let's put this in a real world example. If somebody wants to fight their insurance company and they decide they want to go to court, they're going to have to retain an attorney. They're going to have to pay for that attorney, right? Out of any potential settlement. If they do have a potential or chance under a proposal for settlement after litigation is filed to even possibly get fees, you're going to offer 25% less than actually what you need. So then when you get a recovery, you're already starting at 75%. Then you're going to have to pay the attorney and the experts. And now you're down to 30, 40% of actually what you need to fix the home. What are the citizens of Florida going to do when they only have 35 to 45% of actually what they need to fix? They're going to have no options whatsoever. That is the real world example of the scheme that this bill is going to set up. And what's going to happen is people won't be able to repair their homes. They're going to have to turn it over to the mortgage company. And you think we have an insurance crisis now, it's going to turn into a homeowners crisis later. So that's why we are asking that you oppose this bill, because there's going to be no chance for the citizens of the state of Florida. And that's who you guys are supposed to represent. Thank you.
Thank you, David Murray, followed by Ivan Weiss Braden.
Good morning. David Murray on the behalf of the Florida Policy Order Cooperative. If the Alba story doesn't move you, then nothing will. As a father of a 15-year-old and an 11-year-old, I can't imagine the courage it took that young lady to step up here and to tell you what she went through. She has no incentive of coming up here and telling a story about her childhood and what she had to go through. And right now, we are facing, Hurricane Ian victims are facing the same thing. So when the representative gets up here and says that this bill will have an effective date of immediately, we have people without homes and shelters and RVs upon Christmas that are about to have the rules of their insurance laws changed upon them in the middle of the time when they need it the most. There's no immediate rate relief in this bill. I don't think there's any answer that comes right away. But what I can tell you is the litigation reform that you did do previously has had an effect. Litigation is down 30%. But what's not down is executive pay, executive bonuses, and little people like the Albas are the ones that suffer. So we can all get up here and say what we want, but they're the ones that have to live through the changes that you make on their insurance policies and this insurance legislation. Thank you.
Thank you. Ivan Les Braden, followed by Ben Jones. And if you're up next, you can move closer to the front so we can keep this moving. And I'm going to have to pull the cord at 1 minute for everybody because the clock's ticking. And you're recognized.
My name's Yvonne Lister-Broaden. I'm an attorney that represents property owners in property damage claims. One of the concerns that's been raised by many individuals these past 2 days is litigation data. Where is it? Questions have been raised, including what is the average size of a claim? Are homeowners prevailing in these lawsuits? And how many bad faith lawsuits are arising? Are they prevailing on those? These questions remain unanswered. And from my understanding, we're only going to know the answers to that in March. I brought some data, and it's courtesy of the OIR website, and it may be informative. As of December 7th, 2022, as a result of Hurricane Ian, there are 455,960 residential property claims. 116,881 claims have been closed without payment. 122,652 claims remain open, but with no payment made. That is over 50% of claims that have had no payment made, and it's 72 days after Hurricane Ian. This bill promises market stability, even though more questions remain. Specifically, why are premiums going up? Well, this bill says it's all the litigator's fault. Or could it be a result of property values soaring during the pandemic? After all, why wouldn't premiums increase if the value of the risk increase?
Got to land it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Ben Jones, followed by Lauren Seneger. Lauren, move up to the front, please.
Good morning. My name is Ben Jones. My home was destroyed in a tornado in 2020. We filed our claim immediately. We waited for the adjuster to show up. They never showed up. Several days later, they finally got there and basically said, we can't do anything until we get a structural engineer out here. Our insurance company hired a couple of structural engineers. Some came, some didn't. When they finally did render their report, they said, sorry, you can't see that. And eventually, despite our getting estimates from our private contractors of what it would cost to fix our home, within 42 days, our insurance company got us their termination letter on day 98. And when we got that, it was for about 14% of what it was going to cost to fix our home, and it included $0 for personal property. Our insurance company hired a remediation company and pack out company to take our stuff. They put it in a warehouse. It was unstaffed, an hour away from our home. We wanted access to our property. They said, sorry, your insurance company hasn't paid us. That remediation company also was in charge of keeping the tarp on our roof and making sure it was good. When winds came and blew it away, they said, we need you to help fix it to re-tarp our roof. Sorry, your insurance company hasn't paid us. Which is why I got on the roof in a rainstorm after I got out of the hospital for a heart condition to do it myself. The homeowners are not the problem. It is the insurance companies. We are out over $200,000 out of our pocket to try to rebuild our house. And this is without having to pay our own attorneys up front. Do not embolden insurance companies by making the load easier on them. Thank you.
Thank you. Lauren Seneger, followed by Aaron Majiran.
Good morning.
Recognized.
My name is Lauren Seninger. You just heard from my husband, Benjamin Jones. On the night of June 6th of 2020, I was going to put my daughter in her crib for the very first time at 10 weeks. Instead, we ran for our lives, and I mean that quite literally, as my husband, who you just heard from, watched the roof come off of our home. 98 days later, they offered us 1/7 of what it cost to rebuild our home. We are lucky because we're attorneys. We knew to hire an attorney, and we hired one immediately. We are lucky because we have friends and family that have helped us because we are rebuilding our home ourselves. and praying we get something on the back end. You have heard a lot about bad faith claims and how that is still going to be in effect, and it is still going to help the insured. It is still going to help homeowners. Representative, I know you know that's not true. If you ever know what the term consequential damages is, that is what you are entitled to under a bad faith claim. And what that means is that I have to show what monetary harm it actually cost me, penny for penny. We do not get punitive damages. It does not exist. It's a hypothetical, but it does not exist and has never occurred in our state. So keep that in mind, please. And I ask you this. We have been treated like a number. We have been told, here, we'll wait you out. The insurance company knows the longer they wait, it is harder on us. I cannot help but seem to draw the parallel that we have here in our state. They have left us and they are waiting because they know that they will get what they want at the absolute expense of your constituents. So I leave you with this. What good is enticing carriers back if what they bring to Florida isn't good for Floridians? If you want, and I know that there are problems, I understand it better than most, trust me. I understand you have a broken system and you need to fix it, but there is one very simple rule. If you want to help David, you need to stop giving the stones to Goliath. Thank you.
Thank you. Aaron Majarian, followed by Dennis Green.
Aaron McGarrian for the Florida Justice Reform Institute, and I am in support of this bill. We need to stabilize the market. In order to stabilize the market, we must maintain predictability. We must stop lawsuits. What this bill provides is for an effective, efficient way to resolve claims without getting into lawsuits. In order for everyone who's in this room, from the Albas to all the other complaints that we have, to have insurance companies to actually pay claims. Because if we don't have insurance companies to pay for those 400,000 Hurricane Ian claims, it all falls on the Florida taxpayer through citizens. And that's what we're here today. We thank everyone for this consumer-friendly bill.
Thank you, Dennis Green, followed by Brandon Blake. And Brandon, please come up too.
My name's Dennis Green. I'm an attorney. I'm barred in Texas, Alabama, here in Florida. I represent a lot of victims of insurance companies. You heard the testimony today. This is not uncommon of what's going on. And I hear a lot about, oh, this is a consumer-friendly bill, right? Oh, we're going to go from Texas. We're going to pull this from Texas. It's great because Texas is great. Texas is great. But the difference is in Texas, when they don't follow those deadlines, guess what happens? I drop the hammer on them. You know why? Because we don't have bifurcated bad faith over there. We put it all up front and we go after it. Here, I hear, oh, it's 60 days, prompt payment. Oh, what's the recourse if they don't follow that? I'm gonna tell you what the recourse is. It's gonna drag out in litigation and we're gonna get a general release and it's never gonna see the light of day. But that's not the most disturbing part of this entire bill. For me, it's the arbitration, because I'm from the panhandle of Florida and I know what my people are gonna do up there. They're gonna go after those lower premiums. They're gonna get that arbitration. And then when I spring it on them and I go, guess what? We're gonna apply New York law and then we're gonna have our arbitration up in Nashville, which Nashville's great. But I don't think that people in the state of Florida wanna take a venue up to Nashville and use a New York law. So I'd ask you guys to reconsider this bill, at least carve out the arbitration provisions, because these Floridians are gonna get taken advantage of. And, you know, like we say in California, in Texas, don't California my Texas, folks, don't Alabama my Florida, because in Alabama, there is no attorney's fees.
Brandon Blake, followed by Christina Combo. Christina Combo, please come up.
Good afternoon again, Mr. Chairman, and again, thank you, committee members. Your Honor, geez, you can tell I'm an attorney. I'm here on behalf of Boland Law Group. To keep our eyes on the prize as we look at this House Bill 2A, is that we're looking to help the consumers in ways that will help them actually get paid. This bill includes the earlier prompt payments, which involves enforcing insurers to pay upfront sooner, so that you don't have a situation like has been described here before. It does that by increasing options, by allowing a stable market such that you have more insurers here that and consumers have an opportunity to get different insurers to let the market work and do its job. With the one-way attorney fee statutes I mentioned before, and I won't repeat everything, is that this is something that incentivizes lawsuits, which increase litigation costs, which increases instability, which ends up in insurers going into receivership with FIGA and having to fight FIGA for a year and not the insurance company. For these reasons, we support the bill, especially the repeal of the one-way fee statute. Thank you.
Thank you. Christina Kamba, followed by Caitlin Ferry. Caitlin, please come up.
Good morning. My name is Christina Cambo, and I'm here on behalf of the Florida Defense Lawyers Association. I'm here in support of this bill, in particular the AOB component of it. We recently heard from the Alboffs and other homeowners regarding their troubles they're experiencing from the Hurricane Michael and other losses. I want to be clear, folks like them are not the problem. They're not the reason that we are in this crisis that we're experiencing today. House Bill 1A finally brings an end to the rampant AOB abuse. One of the drivers of this crisis is that there is a network of contractors, AOB vendors, and attorneys working in concert to fabricate, exaggerate, and multiply claims into numerous lawsuits. One of my clients confirmed yesterday that year to date, even though there's been 2 iterations of AOB reforms, 43% of all suits that this client has received this year are still AOB suits. The prior reforms have not done enough to curb the AOB abuse. We are still seeing hundreds of AOB suits being filed daily, driven by the same companies and same players. This is their business model. It is working for them. They don't want it to change. Why would they want it to change? These vendors are Asian companies, and we are dealing with sophisticated operations and schemes. Half measures have not and will not work. The only way to stop this is to stop the motivation behind it, and it begins by repealing laws, begins this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Kimberly, Caitlin Ferry, followed by Logan Paget.
Caitlin Ferry is not available, but she waves in support.
Waving in support. Beautiful. Logan Paget. And if you're one of the professionals, I'm going to probably have to limit you guys to 30 seconds because for citizens that have driven all the way up here, I want to give them at least a minute. So if you're a pro, speed it up.
I'll be brief. Thank you, Chair Rommel. My name is Logan Paget. I'm here representing the James Madison Institute. We've been writing studies and publishing opinion pieces, speaking publicly on this for 10 years. And based on our recommendations, eliminating one-way attorney fees, correcting Florida's bad faith statutes, and addressing the need to make citizens serve its true purpose, we believe the policies contained in this bill are moving in the right direction. I know Chair Leak mentioned at the onset of this in his opening that we're at 76% at the litigation percentage. Just to put that in perspective, since 2013, there's been $15 billion in insurance payouts. 8% of that has gone to policyholders and 92% has gone to lawyers and other fees.
Thank you so much. Christina Carpenter, followed by Ben Mandel.
Hi, my name is Christine Carpenter. I drove almost 2 hours to be here today because I needed to make sure that everyday people like myself are represented by you as you promised to do so when you took office. I am asking you to put yourselves in my shoes for a minute. My family and thousands of others were devastated by Hurricane Michael over 4 years ago. I will never forget that day, nor the months that followed, as our lives were further put in turmoil as we navigated through the maze our insurance company caused. After 3 months and 6 insurance adjusters, we were forced to not only hire a private adjuster, or a public one, but also to hire a lawyer, because even after doing everything our insurance company requested, we were getting the runaround. And I neared the breaking point. We had no roof on our home. We had water pouring in through our windows. We had 1 bedroom out of 4 that we could live in. And we were stuck that way for months upon months because we didn't receive 1 penny from our insurance company. If we do not have the laws that we had protecting us then the scales would not be balanced and we would not have a home today. I came to speak for all hurricane survivors and to ask that we be represented by you. I'm not asking that the bill in whole be dumped, but I am asking that many of the amendments mentioned today would be passed or similar ones, that the insurance companies would have to answer, to request a homeowner after having gone through a hurricane, to then try to find a lawyer that would represent them, pro bono is near an impossibility. And yet that's what your law that you're trying to pass now would make us do. I have gone through everything that they talked about today. Every last one of the things that those amendments that they have proposed, I have gone through. And what you're asking, I don't think you would want any of your relatives to have to go through. I think that instead of voting on party lines, you guys need to vote for what is best for the constituents. What would be best for your mom and dad if they lived through Hurricane Michael? Because you're asking them to have a lawyer's mind without going through law school, and you are asking them to try and deal with a lot of dishonest people. And you're asking them to do that when they are at their most emotional. So I ask you guys to reconsider. I came here today not knowing how this process worked, and I just wonder one last thing. Why is it that you're hearing from us after you voted on the amendments and not before?
Thank you. Ben Mandel, followed by Cecil Harrell. Cecil.
Hi, my name is Ben Mandel. I'm an independent insurance adjuster licensed in the state of Florida. I work for insurance companies that hire me to hire that through independent adjuster firms. On September 20th, 2022, everybody knows Hurricane Ian made landfall in southwest Florida with winds exceeding 150 miles an hour. I'm trying to speed this up for you. After Hurricane Ian, I noticed my claims were not getting paid. For example, the insurance companies were directing the file reviewers to change my estimates to repair the roofs rather than to replace a totaled roof. However, the insurance company was leaving my name on the estimates in a fraudulent effort to make it appear that I had written this bogus estimate, which defrauded the policyholders out of their proper claim payments. The scheme was repeated over and over again, not only on my estimates, but on estimates written by other adjusters. This fraud committed by some of the insurance companies is more widespread than any of us could have imagined. It makes things worse for everyone. The good insurance companies will be forced to adopt these same fraudulent practices in order to compete. They too will have to find a way to collect premiums and not pay out claims. Mortgage companies will be stuck with unrepaired homes when the insurance company will not pay to restore the mortgage home to its pre-hurricane condition. Families will be displaced, property taxes will be lost, children will be affected as they leave their school behind. It's a downward spiral.
You have to bring this in for a landing.
How did this happen? Why now? Why did the insurance companies feel empowered to not properly pay these legitimate claims? The answer can be found in this legislative body. Last May, the governor called a special session for the insurance industry. You made the changes to the law that the insurance industry requested. The insurance industry promised you. In closing, I'll say this. OIR currently has over 95,000 consumer complaints regarding Hurricane Ian. That's not an accident. That's not litigation. That's because the insurance companies are not paying the claims. If you or your friend or your relative has an insurance claim that has not been properly paid from her.
All right. First, though, since you're a licensed public adjuster and you just told us that some licensed insurance committees have committed fraud, if you can come to my office with that information later, I'll make sure the Attorney General and OIR takes care of that. So my office is on the third floor. You can see me after the committee. Up next is Cecil Harrell, followed by Scott Coleman. And if anybody else wants to hijack the mic, they'll be removed from the room.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Cecil Harrell. I live in Odessa, Florida. Back on March 19th, 2019, I lost my house to an electrical fire. I was insured by Heritage, which I live about 8 miles from their office. They were excellent at the beginning. They paid the personal property, they paid liability, but when it came to law and ordinance, I was sent the claim in. They sent it back demanding that I put every law and ordinance on every invoice. At that time, I threw my hands up. I hired an adjusting firm. They got to run around. I had to hire an attorney to get satisfied. I have been satisfied 3 weeks ago. Do not take the legal fees out of this. Take it out. That's the only fair playing field that a person like myself, like this lady, like these people here have. And you have the power. You guys over here have been turning down everything these young ladies and gentlemen over here. You should be ashamed of yourself. You girls, thank you. In closing, you guys have happy holidays.
Thank you for your testimony. John Foster, followed by Mark Vincent.
Oh, were you next? Go ahead.
I do, oh yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. Thanks for keeping in order here. Thanks, Scott.
I was like, man, tough crowd today. Good morning. My name is Scott Coleman, and I'm a proud Florida resident. My wife Karen and I bought our current house over in Jacksonville in 2015, and we spent a pretty penny renovating it before we moved in. The house passed inspection, including all the plumbing. Shortly after that, we started having problems in our kitchen bathroom that eventually led to a full-blown backup of water into our house that traveled all the way out to our front driveway. We learned in short order that a drain pipe in our floor had collapsed. All of our new hardwood floors were ruined. All of the work we had done, et cetera, just paid to renovate, it had to be replaced. We called our insurance company, and after months of waiting for them to complete their assessment, they determined that the damage was our fault because of a, quote, failure to maintain our pipes. Can't make up such a thing. At that point, we had no choice but to call a lawyer. The provision of this bill that requires any citizen to pay legal fees out of their settlement is wrong and is not going to sit well with Florida voters. I ask that you do the right thing and remove this provision while you still have the opportunity. It's the right thing to do, Florida homeowners. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. John Foster, followed by Mark Vincent.
Good morning, Chairman Rommel, or Rommel, Chairman, Vice Chair Maney, members of the Commerce Committee. My name is Alex Foster, and I'm from Bay County, Florida. I'm coming to you today about the opposition to this bill, namely the issues regarding payouts to attorneys. Unfortunately, my family and we suffered through Hurricane Michael and its aftermath. And because of everything that we had to go through, we had to get an attorney. We tried numerous times to get our insurance company to cooperate with us, and they just continued to stonewall us. Now, had we not had the ability to seek counsel and ultimately have them later on go for attorney's fees later on, there's no way we would have been able to fix our house and be able to move back in. This is a bill that is entirely meant to benefit the insurance companies. It does not benefit consumers in any way, shape, form, or fashion. If it was going to do that, there would be other ways to protect consumers. But this is only protecting insurance companies.
Thank you for your testimony. Mark Vincent, followed by Michael Sistron. Michael, if you could work your way up too.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
Mark Vinson. I'm from Louisiana. I am a Florida licensed friendly insurance adjuster, independent. I also witnessed the estimates being changed this year. And the problem with that is, they're leaving their name on the estimates. When they send them to the policyholders, they're under the impression that that's a legitimate estimate from the findings that we found there, and it's not. They've redacted a lot of stuff out of it. And they're thinking they don't know any different a lot of times. So I can see how, and then of course they're not getting taken care of by the insurance company. They're going to need to file, a suit to get paid on this. It's just to me, that's where it starts. That's the root of it. If they would have paid, as the estimate showed it initially, no other problems that would, it's done. So, they've got to stop changing our estimates or leaving our names on them. And, they're just, taking stuff out for no reason.
Again, I'm going to offer the same thing, but thank you for your testimony. If you have companies that have, and again, I don't know the exact law of that, if you show that they're doctoring your estimates, please bring that information to me today.
I've got plenty of evidence.
Bring it to me today. I appreciate it.
Plenty of it.
Thank you. Michael Sistron. Followed by Jordan Lee. Jordan Lee can walk up too.
Good afternoon. My name is Mike Siskron. My wife, Wanda, and I
own a condominium in Daytona Beach Shores, Florida, and survived nonstop 90-mile-an-hour winds during Ian. We fought the water intrusion nonstop for more than 12 hours. When the storm was over, I thought the worst was over. I was wrong. It got worse only when my insurance company got involved. Any of you who have ever survived a hurricane know water intrusion runs everywhere. It gets into the sheetrock behind the walls. It destroys floors, carpeting, furniture, appliances. Virtually everything is a target for the rising water. After the storm, it cost me $8,000 just to strip out the wet, mildew-breeding walls. So far, the carpentry just to repair those walls, $6,200. That does not include needed repairs to the kitchen due to the water intrusion from above. We're going to have to strip out the cabinets and the backsplash to get to that drywall. We're also going to have to replace baseboards, paint, possibly replace the kitchen cabinets. We did obtain an honest estimate of our hurricane loss, which amounts to $115,000. I told you earlier it got worse, and it did. With no debate that our losses exceeded the $115,000, our insurance company told us to take $5,800 after our deductible is applied and go away. That $5,800 doesn't even cover the restoration. To make matters worse, our public adjuster told us that the adjuster for the insurance company told him he was submitting an estimate for $57,000, which did not include the kitchen because he was not authorized to write for that, and it would need to go to a desk adjuster. Ironically, that very same adjuster submitted an estimate for a neighbor in our building who had much less damage for over $50,000, which they received within 2 weeks. We had much less damage, mind you, and they received a check within 2 weeks. Now, this bill would take away any ability for defrauded homeowners to win what is rightfully theirs in court, because even if they win, they still only get 60%. Okay, I'll wrap it up. I do want to thank you for your time, and please consider shooting down this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Jordan Lee, followed by Daniel Alvarez.
Thank you. My name is Jordan Lee. I'm an independent insurance adjuster, and I work for the insurance companies. It is my opinion that both the carriers and the adjusting firms are committing fraud by taking my estimates as well as other adjusters' estimates and manipulating them to reduce policyholder payouts. On multiple occasions, they have taken my estimate, GLR, and photo reports and manipulated and/or deleted the following. They have deleted reports of hurricane-specific damages, line items related to hurricane damages, dollar amounts, and photographic evidence of damages from the documents I submitted in my claims, and then send those manipulated documents to the policyholders, drastically reducing their payouts with my name on it, not anybody else's name. They have manipulated these documents without my approval for collaboration. The policyholder cannot be fully indemnified if they are not provided the funds necessary to do the work to bring their properties back to pre-loss conditions.
I'm going to have to cut you off again, but to continue, you're a licensed adjuster, and if you are, I'm on the third floor, and I love to see that information, and we're going to continue with that. If insurance companies are doing fraudulent, manipulating behavior, it's probably criminal without me looking at it, but I'm on the third floor. I'd love to see you today.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Daniel Alvarez, followed by Stephen Bush.
Good morning, Chair. Thank you for the time. I'm a policyholder attorney. I represent policyholders. I particularly represent policyholders that have been insured by citizens, which a lot of other attorneys turn down because there is no bad faith against citizens. Representative Joseph, I represented one of your constituents that likely called you because she had a $10,000 claim that citizens denied. She did everything she was supposed to do, went at it on her own, provided documents on her own, hired a public adjuster. He provided documents on his own. And it was only this year for Hurricane Irma loss on a $10,000 policy that after $11,000 in costs, we were able to get her paid. This is not a friendly bill for consumers, especially for consumers that are low income with smaller policies and smaller losses. They're not going to be able to get representation. It's a big access to courts problem. Thank you.
Thank you for testimony. Stephen Bush, followed by John Tolley.
Good morning. I am proud to represent policyholders in the state of Florida, and I really want to speak to this side of the room. I had some prepared remarks, but I'm not going to do that. I have represented policyholders in states that he said did not have fee statutes. And I've taken those calls from the single mom who has a $39,000 water loss and can't find an attorney to help her. And she's crying on the phone with me, begging me to take her case, but I can't take it because, as Daniel just told you, $11,000 in fees and costs. I'm sorry, $11,000 in costs. How can we do that? You can't vote for this bill in good conscience. How could you do that for the good citizens of the state of Florida? I represent policyholders here as well, but in the states without fee statutes, if your claim is not huge, you get no representation.
Thank you. For
It's
your testimony.
impossible. Thank you.
John Tolley, followed by John Brownlick from JT Law. Again, attorneys, you're going to get 30 seconds.
Yes, I also represent policyholders as well, including the state of New York, as was referenced by Representative Leak. And I have those same conversations. We don't even get the families to come in and be able to say that, hey, I'm still waiting to get my claim paid, because those people don't get to make a claim. They pay a policy premium for absolutely no reason. This bill is exactly like New York's law. Thank you.
John Brownlick from JT Law, followed by James Mitchell. James, you come on up too.
Thank you. As an attorney, it seems like I get served with the offer of judgment that doesn't exceed $250 every week. Now, what this means is this is the insurance company's good faith offer to settle the case that's already in litigation. Now, what this also means, if my client doesn't accept that offer, they're going to be subjected to over $100,000 in attorney's fees to pay the insurance carriers if they go to trial and lose. So I would ask you to consider how many of your constituents can risk that type of judgment against them if they lose a trial.
Thank you. James Mitchell, followed by Nathaniel Bittman.
Chair Rommel, committee members, thank you very much for your time. My name is James Mitchell. I think you have heard through the independent adjusters and the homeowners that are here why, in fact, we have an insurance crisis, because the citizens of the state of Florida are not being treated fairly. The only mechanism in this bill that you are giving them to fight these insurance company, this proposal for settlement, requires for them to be made whole. They have to file a proposal for settlement. They have to go to trial. They have to beat that number by 125%. They have to go to a fee hearing. They have to go through appeal. 3 to 4 years later, maybe they have the right to fix their house. We should be asking more from this legislature to do things for the consumers. Do what is right. Defend the citizens of the state of Florida. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Nathaniel Bittman, followed by Chad Cundy.
Good morning, Chairman. My name is Nathaniel Bittman. I serve as the president for the Florida Association of Mortgage Professionals. Our mission is to advance and promote licensed Florida originators here in the state of Florida in the area of education, advocacy, business ethics. So we are here today. We were established in 1960, and we now currently represent 60,000 licensed loan originators here in the state of Florida. We are here today in the first time in a long time to be able to advocate to all of you that we have taken strong consideration over this bill, and we are in support of this bill. In addition to that, we'd like to thank all of you for your time today. We'd like to thank the governor and all of you for your leadership. We're here to find some resolution to this crisis we're having here in insurance. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chad Cundy, followed by Christina Pappas. I think Chad is waving in support. Christina Pappas.
Good morning, Chair and members of the committee. It is still the morning. My name is Christina Pappas. I am the president of Florida Realtors for 2022, representing over 225,000 members. Joining me today is the entirety of my leadership team, who traveled to Tallahassee to stress the importance of the work you are doing today, and we applaud you all. Our small business owners, our homeowners, and our prospective purchasers have felt the impacts of the insurance crisis in terms of availability and coverage and of reliability. But the reforms contained in this bill are absolutely essential if we are going to stabilize the insurance market for the citizens of Florida and the Florida economy. So on behalf of our members, millions of current homeowners and millions more of Floridians trying to achieve the American dream of home ownership, we wholeheartedly support the passage of this legislation. Thank you, Chair, members of this committee. Again, Christina Pappas with Florida Realtors.
Thank you. Logan Padgett, followed by Ann Solomon. think Logan is waving in support. Ann Solomon, wishing to appear.
Good morning. Ann Salomon. I'm a businesswoman, a scientist, mother of an incarcerated son, and a property owner. I had intended to speak on a different topic having to do with economic development that relates to our property insurance. But instead, after listening to the conversation this morning and the discussions and the presentations, I'd like to talk to you as a businesswoman. And specifically, the bill as it is proposed today seems to be an impetus to be a David versus Goliath issue, providing more importance and more capability of our insurance companies to damage our citizens. So I would ask you to blue sky. This is a hard situation. You people have spent a lot of time working on this bill, months. Is it the best approach? What we are doing with this bill is enabling our insurance companies to have more power and more control. And I'm using general terms because this is not my industry at all.
Okay, got to bring this in for a landing.
I'm going to. Thank you. I appreciate it. Can you not blue sky a different solution that provides equal opportunity to our residents, such as everybody in this room, as well as stabilize the market? I ask you to consider and talk about different types of solutions before coming to the full legislator.
Thank you. Eric DeCampos, followed by Bonnie Francis. Thank you. Bonnie Francis, followed by Nancy Karp. Wave in opposition from Bonnie Francis, Nancy Karp. Wave in opposition. Jean, I'm not even. Jean Signal, waving in opposition. Thank you. George Feju, waving in support. Appreciate that. BG Murphy. Waving in support. Adam Batsford, waving in support. William Arnold, waving in support. Thank you. We're cooking now. Deborah Baker Rain, waving in opposition. Cherry Chim, waving in opposition. W. Ashley Vanderhill, waving in support.
Oh, I'm here.
Oh, okay.
William Ashby Underhill. I'm from Daytona Beach, Florida. And I am almost appalled by what I've heard here today. And it's really sad. Y'all have a crisis to deal with, and you're not dealing with the crisis. Haven't heard one thing in this bill that's addressing the issues. Y'all knew the fraud that these independent adjusters are talking about. You're not addressing pipe places. No stated values for roofs. But what are you doing? You're telling the insurance company to deny, 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 and there are no repercussions. Now I'm about to read you something. You know, my wife and I are out of our house right now. I do this for a living, and I've never been as appalled as I am by this denial.
Are you gonna have to wrap this up?
You're not covered underneath your policy for your water mitigation. When your roof came off, your windows blew because communicable disease exclusion. Tell me how AIDS, how COVID, any of that has to do with my insurance claim. How? But no, Mr. Leach, you want to tell me I have no recourse against my insurance company and they are allowed to deny my claim by claiming a COVID exclusion. What does water coming in from a roof that came off my condo, a window that blew, have to do with COVID? But y'all are okay with this. Y'all been smiling and laughing. Y'all are okay with this. That is sad.
We appreciate your
And,
testimony.
and
Feel free to
other
lost, but you're
individuals
gonna have to wrap it
below
up.
me have had water go down into their home from the roof that,
Thank you, sir. Sir, we appreciate and we feel sorry for your loss. Michael Carlson, Personal Insurance Federation. Thank you. Dr. Rich Templin. Mr. Templin, how are you? I haven't seen you since last year. Welcome.
Yes, I'll be very brief, Mr. Chair, because I'm pretty sure earlier in the meeting you called me a pro, and I'm going to make a T-shirt out of that. So I'm here representing the Florida AFL-CIO. We are 1.6 million workers, retirees, and their families across the state of Florida. After Hurricane Ian, we spent over 6 weeks in Southwest Florida, trucking in supplies, distributing those materials, those necessary materials to needy families in the area. So this is kind of fresh for us. I can tell you, this is not going to work. What is going to happen is it's going to be about a year, and working families are going to realize that their rates are still high, but they're paying more for less. And then when claims start coming in, they're going to not be made whole, and they're going to hold people accountable for this. This is not going to go well. This is not going to finish well. Please reconsider the approach. We know there are problems. We know you guys are working hard on it. We have the utmost respect, as you know, Mr. Chairman, but we'd like to see a different approach. Thank you so much, Chair Rommel, and I'm going to bring you one of those T-shirts too that says Rich Templin is
As
a
long as
pro.
it's not a gift, I'll take it. Caitlin Murray, National Association of Mutual Insurance Companies. Thank you. Carolyn Zonin. Waive in opposition. Christine Ashburn from Citizens Property Insurance. Waive in support. Travis Moore, Community Association. Followed by Valerie Chavin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Travis Moore, Community Associations Institute, and I just want to speak to the one provision as it pertains to requiring your condominium owners to now get the flood insurance if they are with Citizens. I know this does not apply to the master policies, the commercial residential master policy, as it only applies to the personal lines. However, it does apply then to all of your condo unit owners, no matter what floor they may live in, are now going to be required to purchase flood insurance. So if they are on the 13th floor, the 40th floor, that clearly is a wind-driven rain incident. If there's water, if there's a 44 flood, we're all in trouble. And they're now going to be required to buy insurance. So a lot of the provisions of the bill are we hope, we wish, we're going to try again.
Appreciate it.
But that is saying to your condo owners, you need to now buy yet another policy, even if you're on the 40th floor. So that's something I would consider.
Appreciate that. Valerie Chavin, followed by David Altmaier.
Good afternoon. Thank you for your time. I am a policyholder attorney, and I want to speak to this side of the room. It is going to be a very sad day if this bill is voted into law. Coverages have eroded and premiums have skyrocketed for the consumers of the state of Florida. And today we are bailing out big business to the detriment of the people that you serve, the people that you swore under oath that you are going to protect. We do not have the data. Mr. Altmaier is here. You're going to have the data that's going to show, based on the hard work you ladies and gentlemen did last session, litigation is reduced. Addressing the AOBs would be enough. You do not have to take away the consumer's right to access to courts. This is detrimental. You are going to hurt your constituents. Mark my words. Representative Rommel, one more point. Mark my words. Lawyers will still get paid. It will come out of the money that is supposed to go to fix your constituents' home. You will have to tell your constituents later why they can't get access.
Commissioner David Altmaier.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning. Good morning, committee. I know you're very short on time, so I'll just simply say that we support this bill. For those of you that I probably won't have the opportunity to answer questions for this morning, happy to stop by your office at any time this week and answer whatever questions you might have about the market, about the office, about things we've done to try to mitigate some of the stories you've heard about today, but just essentially at your service. So, Chair, thank you, and thanks to the bill sponsor.
Thank you. And members, at that time, to give everybody a fair moment of debate, Representative Saroy recommends that we extend for 15 minutes to give everybody fair time. Without opposition, we'll show that approved. And Representative Leak, we are now in debate. And first of all, I do want to thank everybody that drove up, especially the civilians that drove up that have been suffering from whatever loss they, have occurred over whatever storm or water leak. We do take it serious. And, everybody here takes it serious. Nobody's laughing at the situation that we're in. And right now, not only you that are suffering, everybody in Florida is in dire straits if we don't correct this. So we do appreciate your pros. I'm sorry if I sped you up for 30 seconds, but we have, work to get done. And with that, we are in debate. Representative Benjamin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And again, thank you, Representative Lee. It is heartbreaking to hear these stories. And it's heartbreaking because it reminds me of when I first left law school. I entered into an internship program, or rather a residency program. And in that residency program, I learned that majority of people who need attorneys for their for anything decide to go without attorneys. Citing the number one reason that people go without attorneys is the cost of attorneys. They can't afford attorneys. People who have legitimate claims, people who have legitimate grievances go without relief. They go without justice because justice is not afforded to them because of what it costs, not on the back end, but what it costs them up front. When I started my law practice, I decided to address that issue by making sure that I did my fees on a sliding scale so that the average person could afford my fees based upon what they made. By taking away attorneys' fees in this manner, we are going to preclude people from justice. Access to the courts, limiting access to the courts means limiting justice. Limiting justice means we do a disservice to the people that we serve. What we did in 2021 was the best approach to this. That attorneys earn their fees by gaining a benefit to their clients. That fee structure was fairer. But to now come back after that and take it away completely, while it's working, says to our constituents, we're going to stabilize this market on your back. We're going to do it on your back to make sure that your insurer has a product that they want. We're giving a clear winner, and it ain't our people. We're making a clear winner here, and it ain't the people who put us in office. We need a different approach. Don't rebuild insurance in Florida on the backs of Floridians. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Representative Daniels, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, I want to say I'm on this side of the room, and I am not in support of this bill, so we just can't put everybody in a box. And one thing I want to say is that sometimes silence can be good. That means I'm listening. I'm not saying about the other folk that are talking, but I've been listening very well. And what I've heard, because I'm probably the least or the less of the expert in here, but I got a lot of experience. And I'm not an attorney, so I probably can't debate and expound on this as well as some folk can. I'm not an adjuster. There's so much that I don't understand about this bill. And when I go into a situation, I'm not just jumping out there to say something just to say it. So what I'm saying now, I mean from my heart, I'm not saying this as a Democrat. I'm not saying this as a Republican. This bill cannot be identified as a blue or a red bill. As I'm sitting here right now, I didn't want to say anything, but I have one of my properties. I don't want to make it about me, and I just wanted to stay away from that, but I have to say something. It's devastating. I've been 2 years, with an insurance company, had to do the private adjuster, got to go get an attorney. But while I'm listening, I hear bad faith. I hear abuse of the appraisal process. I hear the rights of consumers being taken away, underpayment practices, which I'm experiencing right now. They give you a little bit to solve a big problem. And so it seems like that's what we're doing in here. We're doing a little bit to try to solve a big problem, but and all in the name of market stabilization. But I really think that this bill needs a little more balance. It's too one-sided for me, and I can't support it. And the homeowners in the state of Florida, they need benefits and not burdens. And right now, at this point, I cannot support this piece of legislation, and I'm not on nobody's side because I'm representing the folk that brought me here. I've heard, and what I've heard is scary to me because I've been through it. I've been through it with a property just being devastated, and people are literally dragging you on for years. And so there's no way I can do this. I'm sitting here. I don't want to put my situation in. I'm not looking, Chair Rummer, to go meet with you, but to help me out with my situation. But what I am saying is that this is crucial to everyday people, and this bill scares me a little bit. I want to look into it. Someone please come and inform me if there's something that I'm missing. But right now, I'm up for reform, but not this bill, because it's just, we have so much that we're going through, and I don't want to drag on. I've kind of been quiet. I just want to take my little time to talk. But this is, I just don't understand, and I need to sit down with some folk. But right now, I'm down on this bill because I feel like this bill is consumer unfriendly, and I'm going to have to be down on this bill right now.
Representative Cassell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to say to the folks in this room who have experienced what I have witnessed for 13 years of a legal career, thank you for being here and sharing your story. Because to go through what you've gone through and to have to come here and expect this body to do something for you is the least of our responsibilities. And let me tell you, myself and my colleagues have been painted to be the bad guys. And it is the honor. This job sitting here is an honor. And it has been an honor of a lifetime to represent people like you. Because I hear your stories every day. I hear the stories every day of consumers who don't want to hire a lawyer. People don't want to hire a lawyer, but they have to, and they're forced to. And they're forced to because insurance companies aren't transparent. They make it complicated. They send you an 80 to 100-page policy and expect you to figure it out. I've been reviewing them for 13 years, and I still print them because they're all different and they're complicated for a reason. This bill does nothing to help stabilize the market. And while I would love to spend the time to get into fora after hearing these stories today, I'll save that for the floor. But I look to the left side of this aisle, to this room, When you go home and your constituents say to you, when you pass that bill, will I see money in my pocket? The answer is no. When your constituents ask you, am I still protected from big insurance companies? The answer is no. And to the insurance commissioner who's been here since 9 o'clock this morning, who heard amendments related to the job that he does, that we are asking him to do, to the data that we don't have, despite Senate Bill 76 mandating and asking him to have that prepared for us, we still don't have it. And let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, we're not ever going to see it. Who stood up with 5 minutes left in this committee to tell us where his office is. I have a lot more questions for him, but he didn't avail himself today. And let me tell you, transparency in this process against big insurance companies who change estimates, who change adjusters 8 times, who pay dividends to their insurance companies, to their profit holders, to their shareholders, that's who you're protecting when you vote yes on this bill. There is a problem. And for 4 years as an outsider coming here testifying before this very committee, I have said, look at all the other pieces to this puzzle. This is not one-sided. And all we have done year after year, despite seeing the reforms be successful, is chip away at consumers' rights. Where is their freedom? Where are their rights? Where in this bill are they protected? They're not. Thank you for being here. I'm sorry you're going through what you're going to go through and what you've been going through. And I put myself at this table to be able to speak for people like you guys who don't have a voice, who aren't being listened to by their elected officials. And I hate to say it, despite being presented as this is a bipartisan issue. And when you see this vote today, you will see that it's not. Thank you.
Thank you. Additional debate? Representative Joseph. Oh, Representative Harrington.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'll be very brief. I'm very thankful to my colleagues, especially Representative Cassell. This is her first meeting, and this is her time to shine, and it's been really a pleasure to work with them, and I'm thankful for my attorney friends up here, too, that you all are able to bring all those eloquent points to the aisle. But what I heard that was just so simple today is that rates will hopefully drop, or eventually down the road, they might go down. But that's no guarantee for our constituents. And this is probably the biggest issue that I've heard from constituents since being elected is these insurance rates. And what we're hearing today is that there's going to be no fix for that, or there's no guarantee for that. So simply for that, I will be voting no today. Thank you.
Representative Joseph.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At bottom, insurance should be available, affordable, accountable, and accessible for everybody. That's what should happen. And I understand the challenging situation that some of my colleagues are in and how we're here today and the limitations in trying to strike a balance. And I have to articulate that the balance is off, that the things that are on the scale are off, and that we're not giving adequate weight to some of the things that we've heard today, to some of the issues that were articulated in the amendments, to some of the issues that people traveled miles here to share with us. And they don't even need to travel miles because we know stories. Each and every one of you sitting here have stories from people who have contacted your office. I don't even know it for sure, but I'm sure of it. I understand you're limited, but we control how we vote each and every time. And we're responsible for how we vote each and every time. Consequences and not consequences. That being said, we have good actors in terms of insurance companies, we have good actors in terms of attorneys, and we have bad actors. How do we regulate it so that we encourage the good behavior and discourage, punish, or curtail the bad behavior, many of which that we've heard today? And I know the chair has asked several individuals to go to his office, and I would ask that he share with the committee how, and we continue to work with that to hold these people accountable who are literally committing fraud on the people of Florida for their profit. We can stabilize the market, but we don't have to do it on the backs of property owners in Florida. We can walk and chew gum at the same time. We can make sure that the market is stabilized while at the same time providing relief to consumers and protecting their rights to access the courts. We can do it. And you know what? They might not even need rights to access the court in the same way if the insurance companies were playing fair in the first place. Nobody wants to go hire a lawyer just because. If a regular person could interact with the insurance company, file their claim, get it done in a timely fashion so they get real relief, nobody wants to be kicked out of their RV on a home that they're paying a mortgage for that they can't live in. Nobody wants that. If they do that, it's because they have no choice. There are many people that I've spoken to about this bill who want to just forego paying insurance altogether because their premiums that they're paying, they're never going to see the benefit of. But they cannot because they have a mortgage that requires it. So they don't have a choice. So if we're going to make a bogus product or make it easier for insurance companies to present a bogus product, then those cost savings should go to consumers in some way, shape, form, or fashion. We can do that. We can. I know a lot of things are already baked in this process before we even show up and give an opportunity to have meaningful input, whether it's in the public or even legislators on both sides of the aisle. I get that. The public may not, so I'm trying to inform them a little bit about what we're going through right now. And that's unfortunate that that's the call of this special session. And I'm trying not to make it any particular way. I'm just trying to get to a good result for people. So that being said, I just want to thank you again. I know you're in a tough position. And I look forward to trying to work with everybody to try to do something good for the people of Florida. And even while this is, I see writing on the wall, I have to continue to ask that we do something for the people of Florida to make sure that it's fair, accessible, affordable, and that we can hold these bad actors wherever they may be accountable. And that starts with the Office of Insurance and Regulation and making sure that they're looking under the hoods of these things that are going on, that we know are going on, that are fixable. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for your indulgence.
Thank you. Thank you. Members, I want to thank you all for your thoughtful questions and spirited debate. And I want to make sure that you understand that everybody that's had input on this bill is from all sides. And the majority of the people actually on this committee, including Chair Leak, most recently have been affected by a major storm. And every one of our constituents have been affected by a major storm. And I could promise you, for me, if I thought there was something here that was going to harm any of my constituents, we wouldn't be doing it. But we're way past harming one person because a claim is not being paid, whether it's a legitimate claim or not. But we're way past that where the industry is right now. The industry that insures the insurance market, the reinsurance market, say, we're out, and we need help. That's why Citizens is growing at 8,000 policies per week, and we need to do it. But I thank all of you for your 12 amendments, and I know they're in a thoughtful place, but the problem is just, it's much bigger than just a person that may have a legitimate claim that's not getting paid because of a bad insurance company or higher rates. And this bill is going to go to great lengths in fixing that. And Chair Leak, thank you for your input, and you're recognized to close.
Thank you. Let me start by saying to the Albas and every other homeowner, person, constituent who's come up here and talked about the devastation that they've suffered through a catastrophic storm, God bless you. God bless you. I've seen it in my community as well. Many of you here and in the audience have argued that the law should not change in the way that we've suggested. Many of you have suggested that the law should stay as it is. Every homeowner who came up here and told you their story had that horrific experience under the law as it exists today. Today. 8 cents. 8 cents of every dollar that's spent on property insurance litigation finds its way to the consumer. 8 pennies. We have a problem. And we have a problem that's not only decimating the insurance market that we have and that you've heard about today, it's decimating it for every Floridian. Every Floridian. Soon we will be in a position where you won't be able to have an argument about what your coverage should be because no one's going to write your coverage. You will just be out of your house and on your own with no recourse. This is a good bill. If you want rate relief, you have to stabilize the markets. This is a good bill. I urge your support.
Kimberly, please call the roll.
Chair Ramo,
Yes.
Vice Chair Manning,
Yes.
Committee Whip Barrero,
Yes.
Representatives, Antone is excused. Arrington,
No.
Barnaby,
Yes.
Benjamin,
No.
Daniels,
No.
Duggan, Lombardo, Joseph,
No.
Lamarcus is excused. Leak, Mello,
Yes.
Overdorf,
Yes, ma'am.
Rudman,
Yes.
Soroy,
Yes.
Steele,
Yes.
Tant is excused. Tremont,
Yes.
Yeager,
Yes.
Cassell is the ex
No.
officio.
No.
The bill passes.
Thank you, members. By your vote, we will show this bill reported favorably. Thank you, and I appreciate everybody's time, and have a blessed day.
Welcome to Palm Bay Live, celebrating 2 years in business.